All right. Thank you. cap, will the city have any coverage to minimize the exposure of an extremely expensive claim?
Yes, and that goes back to the stop loss coverage. So in the event there was a specific individual would have a specific amount, which we're recommending at $125,000 for an individual. And so at that point, as far as for an individual, an employee, as far as they're concerned, they would meet their deductible or their maximum out of pocket, and it would stop there. So for an employee, they won't, as far as self-funding is concerned, the plan design won't be any different than it is today. So they will see no change for them. It would specifically be for the city itself and the funding and administration on that side.
Okay, so the city would be safeguarded as well.
Correct.
Thank you. And do you anticipate any difference in front loading or matching amounts to contributions for employees?
The health savings account funds are going to maintain as what they are for this current year. So no change, increase or decrease to the health savings account contributions that are currently in place.
Great, thank you. And echoing Councilmember McConaughey, that's wonderful that you don't have to change providers. It's just opening up potentially more opportunities. So thank you very much.
Since Councilmember Pack hit the topic of the HSA, I was going to wait till the end on that. Since this isn't really so much a question, more of a personal preference, but if possible, I would love to see the city pre-fund that for the year for employees as much as possible, like at the end of Q1 or something like that.
HSA really isn't on our agenda, right? So
it's part of the insurance, and we hit on it a couple slides ago.
I know, but are we done?
Yes, unless there's other questions. Perfect. Thank you so much, Council.
Thank you. Now I need to inform those in the room that apparently we also don't have audio. So I guess we're not really broadcasting. Is it now working? I didn't get that text. Okay. So do we have audio and video now?
No, just audio.
Okay.
We are able to see the graphics.
Okay. So if you are online and you can hear this, great. You will see the great graphics for tonight. We'll continue to work on our video. Next up will be Ms. Steck with Interfund loans and budget. And hopefully we can go quickly on this.
I know, I'm hoping so. I think we're talking about ARPA first. Can we go to I don't know where the presentation is. Okay. As you know, we were awarded $13.38 million from the American Recovery Rescue Plan Act. And we originally were working under the interim rule, which was issued when the ARPA funds were distributed. And we did a memo to council, and you approved the budget last year with the following plan of funding the sewer upsizing in the southwest quadrant, as well as the the zone 6 water tank, which was the majority of the funding. Both of those projects are development related projects, but we knew that we were limited by the interim rule to certain projects, and water and sewer are really what the majority of our demand was. And we knew that they would benefit the community and economic development. And so that was the decision as we rolled the budget forward. We also made some decisions to restore some staffing, addressing the negative economic impacts of the time period, I guess, the pandemic. So those are things that you've already gone through. So this is just a reminder of how we had planned to use our ARPA funding. Now let's fast forward to the next slide to January of 2022. So almost a year later, they issue a final rule. And the final rule allows something called a standard allowance. The standard allowance is that any city or anybody, any entity that received ARPA funds could take the first $10 million and bring it into city services and call it a standard allowance, as long as it did not go straight into reserves. So if you had a budget of over $10 million for your city, you could use it to fund your city for the next year, and then use whatever savings you have from other resources or revenues to do whatever else you need to accomplish. And so in reviewing that, that gave us an opportunity to return that $10 million into what would benefit the community more than what would benefit development. So the next few work sessions that we're going to go over kind of interlink to each other. So what we're going to recommend to you is that we change our plan for ARPA. Under that first section, where we see the interim rule, that is how we funded things originally. And you can see that the state has dedicated $4 million of their ARPA funding as well to that infrastructure on the Southwest Quadrant, because they knew that it was going to bring economic development that would also benefit the state. And we're grateful for that funding. Under the interim rule, only $2 million of that project would be burdened onto the development community in the form of impact fees. When they were originally burdened with the whole $17.5 million, right? So originally, impact fees were based on $17.5 million of infrastructure that was going to go in that would be related to impact fee recovery. However, under the interim rule and the state ARPA, they would only then be burdened with the $2 million. So in essence, they were receiving a majority of the benefit of the ARPA funds in impact fee discounted because of that federal funding. Now, we were willing to do that under the interim rule because that was really the only projects that we needed to do that were related to development, were sewer and water projects, or related to sewer and water in general. Under the final rule, if we take the $10 million and we'd redivert it differently, we will match, we'll take our excess ARPA funds, $1.7 million per project, and give them to the project, continue to take the state ARPA monies of $4 million, and then the rest of it would be included in the impact fees as they are recovered, as development occurs. So instead of only $2 million in impact fee recovery on the development community, it's now $10.1 million in impact fee recovery on the development community. And the $10 million then will come back into the city's general fund and will pay for public safety wages for this fiscal year right now, 2022. It will pay for all of our 2022 public safety wages. That's the biggest piece of our budget. The money that was then allocated for those public safety wages would then be rediverted into the CIP fund to bring the CIP fund up, because they're really, ARPA funds are one-time revenues. It's not going to be ongoing. It's not going to keep going. And we have to use it within a certain time period. So if we just use it in 1 year, it's done, and we can take the savings from the other revenue sources and accomplish some other things that we need to do in the budget in the form of interfund loans to the utilities to get these projects moving forward. So what we're proposing to you is that the ARPA funding be changed in the budget amendment to receipt the $10 million into the general fund, and then to use it to fund wages for this 1 year, and then redivert the additional ongoing revenue that would be the $9.3 million over into the CIP fund, which will then be loaned into the utility funds. So we'll show you that cash flow here in a minute. There are questions about this particular change.
I'm going to ask.
I knew you could do it.
You know,
Go ahead.
It doesn't play the Southwest. You can now. I pushed the wrong button.
It's okay.
What happens if? And I know this is kind of the if. What happens if impact fees don't reach those amounts?
I'm pretty confident. First of all, we're working on a new impact fee study, and it will be based on our new general plan and land use, etc. We're working with Lewis Young, Robertson, Birmingham on that project right now.
Is that like a law firm of Dewey?
I know, huh? It's a long name, but you're right. What if impact fees aren't collected on this? Then yes, if we were totally built out and never had new growth, if we were, I guess, a Murray City, right? And didn't get any impact fees going forward, then it would just be absorbed by the utility. But that would be what we're working hard at, identifying things like Jones Ranch and Woods Ranch and those kinds of things to make sure that the recovery on those is 100%, as long as the fee that we give to you, you adopt.
See, the concern that I have is that big R word. And if the big R word, recession, hit the country, is it going to affect housing starts and housing construction? And if it does, impact fee, we're not going to be building as fast, and impact fees are going to go down, which means that water rates have to go up to cover the cost of the impact fees.
We actually are and I think I just brought a budget amendment to you a couple of weeks ago. We're collecting double what we budget for impact fees for a long period of time. So I'm very, very conservative in your long-term plans to ensure that I'm using your lowest point of impact fee recovery for the last 8 years in order to project that forward. Now, should a recession and housing start slow, it would not defer the repayment of the loan back into the CIP fund, but it could, as a council, you could say, let's defer that loan for a longer period of time, as opposed to saying, we're going to bond for this money and then have to pay it back no matter what, right? So it gives a lot more flexibility for us to make sure that we're not burdening any of the utility users. Because we do know that even in recession times, there's usually a 5-year swing back, right, into a better economy, we hope. So I know that it's not long-term, but we are looking at long-term. We're being very conservative in that. And this plan will allow you flexibility to defer some of those payments if necessary. And we're not relying on those payments, repayment back in the CIP fund over that period of time. So we've kind of put a couple of safety nets in place for you. That's a really good question, though. Okay, we're good with this part? Okay, next slide. It's hard when you don't have a clock that you can see. Oh, there's one right here. Okay, there's one on our mics, and I just noticed it. So next slide. So we're going to talk about these interfund loans. So this is neck and neck with what we just talked about. So the Zone 6 water tank, this is the original structure, right? We had $5.5 million of our own money, our own ARPA funds, and then $2 million for the state funds. We actually just got the bid back on this, and it's a little higher than that, but I just got it today, so I couldn't change slides overnight. The next one is the sewer line upgrade. We put $6 million of our ARPA funds in, $2 million from the state, and then we were going to use $2 million of impact fees. So if we go to the next slide, this will be how it will be funded now, which will be what we showed you just previously, but this one includes the loan so that you can see we're doing an interfund loan from the CIP fund of $3.8 million to the water fund and almost $6 million to the $5.6 million to the sewer fund. And then we're using some of the reserves in the water and sewer fund to make up the gap. Next slide. This allows the projects to be funding without bonding on them, which is a huge savings. So again, the development community was seeing 100% recovery pretty much on those projects through the original plan. They're still seeing a lot of savings because we're not going to be putting the bonding interest cost into that impact fee calculation. So if we had bonded for these projects at almost $20 million, we would have an estimated savings between $2 and $4 million over that time period that we would bond for. So there's still a significant savings in allowing us to interfund loan between the CIP fund and these utilities to the utilities and the development community. And it also allows for that flexibility to make sure that any repayments are not required. We could be deferred by the council. It keeps the projects moving forward. As I said, we awarded construction on the Zone 6 water tank. I think the bids opened today or yesterday, and we're in the midst of awarding. And so we're really kind of at a critical point to try and make this decision. We preserve our financial responsibility of the infrastructure cost to development through that impact fee cost recovery instead of federal assistance, which I think is important, that federal assistance then becomes something that the taxpayers can see improvements in their own communities from over time. It's a 10-year repayment plan with the interest rate based on a PTIF account, which would mean that we're not losing any interest in the CIP fund either from loaning these funds to someone else. So both places, there's going to be some interest, but it isn't going to be at the same level as a bond. The payments back to the CIP fund will provide a reliable cash flow towards those improvements. So it's about $1 million a year. And will retain the benefits of the federal assistance dollars to the taxpayers in one-time funds, which would be appropriate to use in the CIP fund. Next slide. Again, this is the terms which we just went over, and the repayment source is impact fees. Next slide. Okay, are there any questions about the interfund loan? Because it's going to come to you as a business item tonight. No? Okay. What is it? Oh, public hearing? No, not on the interfund loans. They're business items. Okay, the next one is the budget amendment. We're going to quickly go over, and this one comes to you as a public hearing tonight. Tonight, we're going to ask you to receipt the ARPA grant funds, the standard allowance of $10 million into the general fund. We're then going to use some of those funds to restore personnel costs into the general fund and operations into the general fund, with the remainder of it being transferred to the CIP fund. So our ending fund balance is going to be going up by $230,000 by the requests tonight in the general fund. The personnel costs are not new personnel, but if you remember with the ARPA funds, we had been recovering a bit of the cost over the next 4 years into the general fund. Instead of that, we're going to go a different direction, and the general fund can take on this additional cost right now. Next slide. In the capital projects fund, again, all of this is interrelated with what we just talked about. We're going to transfer in from the general fund that $9.3 million, and then at the same time loan it out to the water and sewer funds. That's a net zero. The last item is that we're going to remove the construction budget for the Community Arts Center in the amount of $3 million, because we recognize that there's an opportunity for us to maybe consider our timing on the construction, and not much is going to occur between now and June 30th. The mayor does intend to bring this back to you at a later date in your budget for 2023, and that can be a discussion that you can have on that budget. So we're going to remove the construction project budget for this fiscal year. Next. The grants fund, this is where the ARPA activity was going on. So we're just taking it all out, and it will no longer be in the grants fund. Next. In the water fund, we'll be receiving that grant money, that ARPA grant money, and the state money, and the loan. And then we're going to budget for the reservoir. Next. On the sewer, we're going to budget for the entire project, recognizing that's going to be a multi-year project for sure. But we're going to budget for the whole thing to make sure that those funds are really secure and secured. That is currently in the design mode right now. It's not in construction yet. We'll receive the ARPA funds, the state ARPA funds, and the loan from the CIP. Next. And that's the budget amendment. So that's going to come to you for this fiscal year. Now we have 14 minutes to go through your long-term plan, or less. 12 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I see Kayleen's face, 5 minutes. All right. The following slides, I'm going to just tell you right up front, is really to try to be a bridge between what we're going to be asking you to do in the budget overall long term. The fact is that we know that the City Hall remodel construction bid came in higher than our anticipated or estimate, and the overall project budget that we had originally approved, or you had originally approved, I'm sorry, in the budget. So when we presented a budget to you last year, we gave you a long-term plan for all of the funds, and the long-term plan included the City Hall remodel at $6 million. The bid for construction came back at $9.1 million. We recognize the difference. Some of the difference has to do with replacing the chiller, which is almost $2 million, but there's other things that are going on, of course, with inflation and etc. So let's go through these next slides. All right, so what's going to change in your long-term plan? So we're looking at that top line of every slide is this fiscal year, and there'll be no changes in this fiscal year outside of what we're asking in the budget amendment. The next pieces of these slides, those next rows, are really the next 5 years and how things have changed from your budget as it was amended, so everything that's been done up till today, and then what we estimate will happen over those years now under the new plan. Now, the new plan will also include the changes that we've discussed tonight. So you'll see that revenue is going up tremendously, right? About $12 million. What is that made up of? It's made up of the $1.1 million per year in road funds from SB 244. We have through 2036, we'll be getting that $1.1 million a year for road maintenance, not road maintenance, road construction. Be clear about that one. We'll be getting $1 million a year in loan repayments from the water and sewer fund from the loan that we just discussed, and that would go through fiscal year 2032. So right there, there's $2 million a year, which is why you see $2 million a year almost all in those differences. In 22, 23, and 24, there is $2 million from Salt Lake County TRCC grant for the Community Arts Center. So that assumes $666,667 a year for those 3 years to support the construction of a community arts center. And it includes $815,000 in 2023 from grants that we are already in the process of being awarded or have been awarded for 2023 for the Big Bend project. That's why you're seeing a revenue swing up from our estimates. Next. Road projects. You're seeing a decrease in road projects, and that has to do with some additional funding that we're getting from federal assistance and from UDOT and from the state. So we're still accomplishing what you want to do in the long-term plan, which is 13th West, 7800 South, and the 8600 South Bridge. They are all fully funded at this time, as well as some pedestrian bridges, environmental studies, new traffic signals, and the road master plan update is being accomplished in this long-term plan as well. Next. In the long-term park project plan, we're accomplishing Ronwood Bike and Skate Park at $4 million, Ronwood Phase 3 at $4.6 million, Big Bend, which is grant funded in its entirety at $815, some Constitution Park improvements, which really has to do with an irrigation pump, right? And some minor projects and trails at about $325,000. So we're still doing about $14 million instead of $7 million in park improvement projects. And we still have a pretty decent balance in park impact fees to continue on that improvement path. Next. But those are just the ones we're going to get through first. Facility projects. We are including a $10 million City Hall project budget, and next year a $2 million Justice Center HVAC replacement that will occur over fiscal year 23 and 24, and then other maintenance on the buildings that might occur, but we need to have something there in case it does, of $200,000 a year. Typically that would be if the Parks building needed a roof or the Justice Center needed something. City Hall shouldn't need anything. So that's what's included. So now let's go to the next slide. Because while you know those numbers, what's really most important for you to know is where's your balances after all that happens. And then that helps your decision making, right? What's the bottom line on your checkbook? This is the Community Arts Center and the timeline for construction if we decide to accept the TRCC grant and what we think the construction schedule would be if we go forward with that. And the next slide. This is the ending reserve balances. So what I want you to know is that in roads, at no time are you under $9 million. The majority of that is state legislative money as well as impact fee money. The vast majority is impact fee money, okay? Parks is the same way. The vast majority of that funding is all impact fee related. In fact, all of that ending balance is impact fee related. At no time during that project list that we just showed you are you going under $2 million, almost $2 million of fund balance. So it's pretty substantial. Public safety, the impact fee doesn't quite keep up with the bond payments on this, so it's in the negative, but it does come out of the hole finally in 5 years. We pay that bond off in 2024 and 2025. So it will be paid in full right about the end of 2024. And so then we'll start recovering enough that we can start getting out of the hole. The Community Arts Center is that last column. That's just showing if we do construction on the schedule that's being proposed. And then other is everything else. That's your facilities. That's anything that's general fund related outside of legislative money. And if you do the $10 million City Hall building, your lowest point of general fund balance without any transfers from the general fund during this period of time would be $1.18 million. And then it builds back up. How does it build back up? It's building back up based on those $1 million repayments from the sewer and water fund. So when you're trying to figure out where's it coming from, that's where it's coming from. So in essence, your ARPA money is flowing in sort of over time in the form of that ongoing loan to the CIP and water fund. And it will help us accomplish some projects to the community. Okay, so the question to you is, do we approve the construction budget for the City Hall remodel or not? Because the budget amendment, I don't need an amendment, right? We've got $3 million, but your overall long-term plan had a $6 million budget and is now being proposed to you with a $10 million City Hall remodel budget.
Are you wanting information from us right now?
I need information from you.
Okay, so
I need some sort of thumbs up or
Council?
something.
I think we need a formal vote on this of some sort.
Rob, advice?
As long as what is implemented isn't implemented without it being scheduled for an agenda.
Clear as a
Regular
lawyer.
meeting agenda item. You can give direction, but if you're making a final decision about transfers that is under yours, okay.
We're not making, you're making a final decision in that I have a contractor with a contract that will not hold our pricing, that we need to decide whether to sign the construction contract or not.
So Rob, can I ask for a vote on who wants to proceed with City Hall? How do I get her the information she needs?
Well, you can, if what is being proposed is a transfer that can be done without legislative approval, you just need a thumbs up, then if without legislative approval, then yes, but if it requires legislative approval, it's got to be on an agenda for a regular meeting.
Okay, so Denise, does it need?
You've already approved the project.
Jared, you know a little more.
You've
about
you've approved an appropriation for the project. Our problem is that the project has come in over what you believed the total project cost would be.
Right, so you're asking.
But you didn't
us-
adopt the total project cost in the budget. You adopted the start of construction of the City Hall remodel.
Well, yeah, you could approve it. You could give her a thumbs up, but then you're going to have that's going to drive a decision in future budgets.
Right.
So
Right.
you can do that.
Okay, so council, what I would like to do is what we're being asked, basically, please, anyone tell me if I'm wrong. What we're being asked to do is say, continue on with the remodel of City Hall. And by doing that, we will be needing to change our budget somewhere by $4 million because it came in about $4 million over what we had budgeted. So before I take a straw poll, I'm going to ask council members if they have anything that they want to ask or that they want to contribute before I ask for my straw poll. Anyone? Mr. Pack.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so just to clarify, we're only discussing that if we do or do not want to move forward with the remodel of City Hall, we're not debating or voting on where that money is going to come from. No transfers anywhere. We're not talking about a budget adjustment or amendment here. We're just saying, hey, do we want to move forward?
Right. So the decision tonight would say that you don't need a budget amendment because you already have the project in the budget for this year. However, you are saying that you are committed to funding the project in its entirety in your next budget year.
Right. So are we engaging in conversation, pros and cons here? Are we just giving a straw poll
No,
thumbs up?
No,
That's what I'm assuming.
we'll just, all I'm going to ask you for is if you're in favor of basically the mayor signing the contract to proceed with City Hall remodel. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. You'd asked if there was anything else we wanted to add. I did have some other questions about what came up in the first part of the presentation, but it's not directly related to the question that's been thrown out in front of us. So I'll ask those at another point.
Is that okay? Because we're running, it's 6:30. So are they questions you need have answered before we do a straw poll?
They're questions related to they're questions related to the information that was provided, but not related to the straw poll. So
Okay.
when you asked if anyone had anything else, I've got a lot of questions, especially about that chiller, because I swear we put crazy money towards that like 3-4 years ago and horizontal boring and all that, but I'll hold that for later.
So do you want Mr. Astle to answer those questions before you decide if you're going to say yes to a remodel? Because that's part of it.
No.
No? Okay. Mr. Astle, is there anything you want to add before we do our straw poll? And you'll need to come to the mic to speak. A mic. Yeah, a mic.
Is that better? Okay. Sorry. I was just going to say, I did send an email out earlier. I apologize for the lateness of that. There is quite a bit of detail in there. I apologize if the communication with the council hasn't been clear enough on this project. There has been a lot of work done on this even before I started with the city. We're looking at almost 24 months of work with the architect at looking what the building state was. They provided us a 71-page analysis last June that explains all of the deficiencies in the building. And I'm happy to share any of that information if now or at a later point with all of you.
Could you just, like in 5 minutes or less, quickly basically give us the information that you sent to the council
Absolutely.
in the email?
Absolutely.
So that everyone knows what it is.
So it's true. There was a new chiller added to the building in 2016. The issue at the time is that the building wasn't being able to cool down enough. So they brought in and added a larger chiller next to the small one. So that basically added additional cool air capacity into the building, but that did not change anything else in the building. So what this remodel is going to be doing is dealing with the zones and the boxes and issues throughout the building. If you're not familiar, in your home, you have a system that basically blows to every room and you can open the vents, open and close them to what you want. In a commercial system, there's actual controls in each area that measures the temperatures, can dampen it, heat it, or cool it at other locations, because the main source is coming from the chillers outside and the boilers in the basement. So there's other controls throughout the building that are wearing out. Those components are over 30 years. Well, they are 30 years old this year. They don't make those parts anymore. So when we have something break, we're either trying to weld something or we're having to manually adjust the system. So the other part of that is yes, there was a new chiller added, but it doesn't communicate with the 30-year-old programming system. So that's a manual change that we have to do on a daily basis in the spring and fall to change from the small chiller to the large chiller because the newer system doesn't communicate with the old system. So the remodel is basically changing everything in the ceilings and floors of the building and adapting to the chiller that's there. And then the other chiller that's out there is 30 years old, but part of the remodel is changing the pumps and the control boxes in that, as well as the software system. And then we also have In the analysis they did, there's multiple electrical and fire safety issues as well. And then also several ADA compliance issues, mainly at the entrance of the building and in some of the bathrooms. They don't meet current ADA requirements. The other benefit that you will see in the remodel is that we're adding a family bathroom on each floor to accommodate some of the other concerns that people have of either needing to take a child into a bathroom, or if there's people that aren't comfortable going into a specific gender bathroom.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
All right.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chair. So a couple questions with an opinion thrown in there. Mr. Astil, 71 pages of deficiencies. If we put this off a couple years, will that list get smaller?
I'm sorry. It's a 71-page analysis. The
Okay.
actual deficiencies is 4 pages of that 71-page analysis.
Will that list of deficiencies get shorter if we put this off a couple of years? Will it get less expensive if we wait a couple of years?
It will absolutely not be less expensive than when we do it now, even with the cost of supplies and labor.
Okay, thank you. My opinion along with that is if the initial estimates were off, they were off. If it needs to be taken care of, it needs to be taken care of. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, Council, if you would please, and allow me a little bit of time because I have to go back and forth at this point. So if you are in favor of the remodel, please raise your hand. Okay, we have 6 that will be in favor of the remodel. What? Yes. Yeah, that's where you got to. That's the 6, Cindy, and 1 opposed. So, thank you. Thank you very much. And certainly during our council comments, you're welcome, council members, to give your input of why you voted that, why you raised your hand or didn't raise your hand. Okay. Anything else, Ms. Steck? You have 1 minute.
I have nothing else, but I think if Councilman McConaughey has questions about the other items in the work session or not.
I'll
wanna talk to me
chat
offline?
with you after.
Sure.
We're not taking everyone's time. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. We have one more item on our agenda for our work session, which is House Bill 411, Community Renewable Energy Act discussion. This was brought by Council members Bloom and Jacob. Do either of you want to speak to this before we have staff come up?
Yes, I just want to make a motion to allow public to help answer questions regarding this, specifically with Christopher Thomas.
I'll second that if it needs a second.
We have a motion, but we haven't heard from staff yet.
Do you want to wait till staff? Then?
Could we pull the motion
yeah.
until after we hear
I'll
from staff?
pull the motion then.
Thank you. All right. I believe, yeah, but I don't see her. Oh, there she is. Sorry. Miss Parker, thank you.
I don't know if it's good or bad that you couldn't see me back there. Maybe I'm hiding. I don't know. Do you want just a brief history of where we've been, or would you like what's changed from when we last heard this issue?
Yeah, I think just
Okay.
what's changed.
So generally speaking, I think there are really 3 main areas where this has changed. The first is that since our last conversation, when you determined not to proceed with this, the cost to the city has gone up. When we first, I'm going to say about 1.5 years ago, when we had that discussion, the cost estimate for the city was about $75,000 total, including our initial investment and the mailing. Currently, the cost of this project would be $75,000-ish. I think it's a little bit more than that in initial investment, half of which would be due immediately upon signing the agreement, and half of which would be due, I believe, in the next fiscal year. And then there's about $35,000 in communication fees. Beyond that, we would have our own city communication fees and budget requests that would go along with that. But those are the defined dollar amounts. So that's a pretty significant increase. I'd say that's the first change that's really occurred. The second is that they have, as they've moved forward through the process, with which they've done some great work on, they have kind of weighted the votes in the committee participation. So the seven, I think it's seven, and Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a little while since I've been to their meetings, but the seven, I think they're called founding cities, have a higher weighted vote than the other cities participating. And I'm not sure if there's an opportunity for us to become a founding city, but obviously that would come with a much higher price tag if there is an option. And then the third area I think that has changed is that they extended the deadline. So initially we had to make a decision. Prior to that, we can now still join as a city participant through May 31st of this year. So those are the big, I'd say the big changes.
Has Rocky Mountain Power got any idea what the cost of this is going to be yet? They didn't before.
So the $75,000 goes to pay for those that startup information. So if you're asking what Rocky Mountain Power would charge a resident, that is not defined to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'll hang out right here in case you
Council
have other
members,
questions.
does anyone have any questions for Ms. Barker? No?
Now I'll make a motion to hear from the public, specifically for Christopher Thomas.
And I'll still second.
We have a first from Councilmember Bloom and a second from Councilmember Jacob to allow to allow input from a member of the public. Is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Oh, thank you. Chair Whitelock,
Yes.
Vice Chair Green,
No.
Councilmember Bloom,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey,
No.
Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
and Councilmember Worthen.
No.
That motion passes 4-3. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, Thomas is your last name, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I will give you 5 minutes.
Great. Well, thank you very much. My name is Christopher Thomas. I work for Salt Lake City, but I'm here to help answer any questions that you have about the Community Renewable Energy Agency and program. I serve as an alternate board member for Salt Lake City on the Community Renewable Energy Agency board, and I'm happy to be here and answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions?
Oh, okay. I imagine we brought you up here to ask you a couple of questions, so somebody ought to probably pose one. Maybe you could give us just a 30-second recap of what HB 411 aims to accomplish, and then what the city's role in that is, and then we know what we're paying for if we decide to pay for something.
Great question, council member. Thank you. So back in 2019, the state legislature passed a bill enabling the creation of the Community Renewable Energy Program, and it laid out a bunch of different milestones that would need to be hit and requirements that would need to be satisfied in order to set up that program. And so since 2019, there's 23 eligible communities, of which West Jordan is one. We've now had 17 communities vote to join our agency. And the purpose of the program really is to give our residents and businesses a choice of where their electricity comes from. So the goal of the program, once it's set up, is to basically match 1-for-1 all the kilowatt hours of electricity that our participating customers use with renewable energy that's going into our grid. that we use every day when we turn on the lights as Rocky Mountain Power customers. So that's the big picture goal. Where we are right now is we're designing the program. So we have a program design committee made up of 7 of the 17 communities. We are now regularly meeting with Rocky Mountain Power to hash out all the elements of the program design. We've also hired energy attorneys and through them an energy analytical consultant expert who was helping guide the communities through those negotiations with Rocky Mountain Power. We didn't want to be in a situation where we were just having Rocky Mountain Power say, well, here's what we think you should do for your program. We needed to make sure we were getting a good program that met our goals and was affordable. And so that's what we've hired and budgeted for and hired our own consultants and experts to help us through this negotiation.
Now, what cost, now, and I know we don't know this particularly, but for these communities, what's the bottom line for residents? I mean, great, we want clean air, we all want that, but what is the bottom line that customers are going to be asked to do?
So ultimately, if the program is approved, those who are participating in the program will see a slightly different bill than those in our communities who don't choose to participate. What will that bill impact be? We would love to know that, just probably as much as you would. But unfortunately, we're not at the point yet where we can project that cost. We're working as hard as we can. It's a complicated thing where there's many different choices that need to be made. And then at the end of that process, as we've negotiated all these different elements, then we'll be able to project the cost impacts. But I will say, as part of the governance agreement, that if you all wanted to join and you signed it, we've set up a structure that should protect against any rate increases more than 10%. So basically, before the agency would acquire new renewable energy sources on behalf of our customers, we'd do an evaluation. Would it mean those customers who are participating would pay 10% more than if they weren't participating? And if the answer to that is yes, it will take supermajority votes of both all the communities participating in the agency and a supermajority vote of all the participating load in the agency. So it'd be very unlikely that we would see cost increases higher than 10%. My hope is it would be far lower than that.
So currently, I can, on my bill, I can say I want to have wind energy. And they're doing that on their own. Why can't they do more of this on their own? Why do they need, like right now, that's over 100,000. If we want to just say, yeah, go ahead and you don't have a clue how much it's going to cost our residents if they want to participate, but let us give you some money so you can figure it out. Why can't they do that on their own? It's their business, not ours. And so to me, I want clean air. I'm not against clean air. It makes it easier for me to breathe, but I also need to be careful about money.
Totally agree. I think our affordability is really at the top of our list in terms of making sure this program works for our residents and businesses. I wish Rocky Mountain Power had a plan to get to 100% renewable energy. They don't. But part of this program, it takes effort. It's taking a lot of my time and it takes an investment. What we get at the end of it, though, is to be able to make some of our own choices about where our energy comes from, to choose less polluting sources. And I believe that in the long run, this will be a wise financial decision too, because as we're going to solar and wind, which aren't reliant on a coal fuel price or a gas fuel price, which can be very volatile. I mean, we're seeing that with our gasoline prices right now, and it's different for natural gas, but you have the same effects. As we're investing in fixed price resources that stay stable over time, we will have an opportunity to protect ourselves from that volatility in fuel prices going forward. So it may not be cheaper right out of the gate, but I think over the long term, it's a wise financial move for our residents and businesses.
Thank you, Chair. This is not a question. This is just a couple things I want to share. Number one, my vote was in opposition because I really did not like the idea of a motion that allowed one member of the public to speak without giving everybody that opportunity. Nothing against you personally. I just didn't like that approach. And number two, with HB 411, while I don't disagree with what's trying to be accomplished, I disagree with the idea of having the cities foot the bill. This is we're a local government focused on local issues. We are talking about our chiller here at City Hall and renovations that are needed at City Hall and impact fees for local water tanks. I don't think it's appropriate for us to use local tax dollars for a regional issue. I am very frustrated with the state for continuing to avoid the issue and try and push it down on the municipalities to tackle something they don't want to touch, which I've shared a couple times that same thought, and that's why I was in opposition before. So again, I like where they're trying to go. I just don't like our taxpayers having to foot the bill for a larger part of the population. I think this is something that belongs with the state legislature, not the city of West Jordan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, Vice Chair Green.
I'm just going to add my 2 cents. One, Blue Sky program's already there. If somebody wants to voluntarily pay a higher tax bill for renewable energy, go for it. This city has already been involved in renewable energy for the last 8 years. We don't get a dang bit of credit for it, but we have. The Transjordan landfill is listed with that power generator as a renewable power generator on most of the websites. We don't get credit for that, but we want to raise taxes or use tax money for this. And no. And I also am not going, no offense to our friends in Salt Lake City, but I'm not going to vote to join any consortium when we don't have a fair share of the vote. We don't have, Salt Lake City bought their place at the table. I'm going to be mean. Salt Lake City bought their table and bought 55% of the vote so that they can control what happens with this. And I won't join something, I won't vote to support anything like that. So.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. All right. Is there anything the council has further that they want to contribute right now?
I'm just going to ask Mr. Wall, do you have a answer?
I don't, but I'll keep looking.
Okay.
So our council has discussed this before, and I'm not seeing the support to put this on a future agenda. Really, that's what I need to figure out right now.
Rob, can I make a motion that we table this idea indefinitely or do something so that it's subject to the what I want to do is make a motion that would be subject to the reconsideration rules of the council.
I don't know. That's what I'm looking at. It's not in the rules themselves. I'm having to look to another source beyond what's in your council rules.
Yeah. Okay.
Council, if I may jump in, I did have Jared Tingy, who's an assistant city attorney, look into the procedures to get into the program. And there's 5 of them. Jared is here if I mess this up, but I copied it from him.
I don't think that's the question.
Oh,
well, I think the question is procedurally, can you deal with this without going through?
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Steps?
Yeah.
Isn't that the question, Councilmember Green?
Yes. Thank you.
So really right now, I guess what I will say is unless Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to suggest that with the work session, it's intended for dialogue. If we were going to take any formal action, this would have to come back on an agenda. Typically, we say there need to be 2 people to support putting it on an agenda for formal action. Hopefully, we can see where the votes lie and those who would bring it back and determine whether or not they'd want to put it on a formal agenda later. But I don't know that any formal action would be needed at this point.
Perfect. We'll do nothing. Okay. This portion of our Mr. Wall.
Yes, I do have one other comment. It's noticed on the agenda as an opportunity to study issues and analyze them. And so unless I can find something here in the next 30 seconds procedurally, I think you'd have to do it. Any decisions you make would either have to be in an open meeting or otherwise agended.
Yeah, I think Council Member McConaughey gave us the perfect thing. If two members of the council want to fill out another RCA to put it on for a vote of the council, they can. It's up to them. I personally don't see the support. So that will be what we do. And I will call this portion of our meeting to a conclusion, and then we will resume our business meeting at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams. Appreciate it.
That button goes red.
Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting of the West Jordan City Council to order and welcome you all here. It's so great to see so many people in our audience. We often have our staff and maybe Brandy. So it's great when we have residents come to share this time with us. Tonight, we have all members of our council present and many members of our staff. We are going to begin tonight with a Pledge of Allegiance, and I just moved the note. And we get to hear from actually someone in our planning commissioner, Matt Quinney, is here with a group of young men, and one of them has graciously agreed to say the pledge. So it is Stephen Bell. Please come on up.
Everyone, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and those who represent the nations, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Stephen. This is our first meeting in the Justice Center. And for those that aren't aware, the reason we're meeting here, and we will be meeting here for, well, it depends on who you talk to. I'm maybe pessimistic, so I think over a year, but I've been told a year. So because our city hall is being, having some needed work. We have some electrical, plumbing, and little heating, air conditioning issues. A few of those issues, some ADA compliance issues that need to be remedied. City Hall is over 30 years old, and you know, I don't know about the rest of you, but as buildings age and as we age, things have to get repaired. It happens. Tonight, we are honored to have a group of volunteers that do an amazing work. We actually have two groups tonight, but the one that we are recognizing tonight is the rodeo. And Lindsay, are you or Sherry? Who is? Isaac is going to lead us in this portion. I want to mention that we also do have members of the arts community here. So take it away.
Thank you, council members. I'm honored that I get to do this, even though I don't know most of these people, but I look forward to working with them during the Western Stampede and the other events in the city. These are some very dedicated people that are both on the committee, that are committee members, as well as a lot of people that don't get the credit, which are our shoot staff, which have a very long and tedious job throughout the rodeo. Some of them aren't here tonight, so I'd just like to forewarn you of that. But the ones that are here, we're going to be sending them all of the buckles out tonight. With representatives, but the ones that are here, if you guys would come up as your names are called.
Isaac,
yeah.
I think we are going to have the council go in front of our new dais and then ask that after you give them the buckle that we get to shake their hands and say thank you as well. Council members, please go in front of your.
Can I slide this out of the way a little bit? People can fit through.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Oh, no, that's why this.
Yeah. I'll break something if I keep moving it. All right, we'll start with the committee members first. We've got Steve Brower, Marlene Conrad, Sherry McAllis, Tracy McAllis. Come on, Steve, you're never shy. Jennifer Main, Al Richards, Becky Gertler, and Lynn Bowler. Just to show everybody. So this is the Western Stampede buckle. Each person has their name on the bottom. And what their participation is. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
How about yourself?
You're doing good.
Good. Okay, good.
I'll go ahead and start reading the shoot staff as well. We've got Holland Bowler, Shane Bowler, Randy Bowler, Kristen Bowler, Chase Bowler, Haley Bowler, Berkeley Jones, Chris Hancock, Kaylee Memmott, Mike Porter, Brooklyn Porter, Haley Porter, Carson Shields, Ryan Main, Caden Lund, Bristian Jones, Sierra Goodman, Joe Johnson, Craig Briggs, Matt Ling, Adeline Bowler, Tracy Jones, Tyrell Memmott, Brett Bergen, Sydney Leifer, Chris Maurer, Brian Densley, and Justin McMullen. Thank you. Yeah.
What was your name?
Isaac
Isaac.
Astle. Yep.
Chase.
Chase, nice to meet you. Look forward to working with you.
Just on behalf of the council, we want to express our gratitude for all those that volunteer for our rodeo. Without our volunteers, there would be no rodeo. I'm pretty sure that I could not wrangle steers or even lambs or anything else. So I probably don't even know all the right words. So that would be a problem. Sheep? I don't know. See? Those mutton busting animals. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much for your service. We greatly appreciate it. Next on our agenda is public comment. If you are listening online, you can raise your hand in the chat and you will be called on. If you are listening in on phone, you push *9, which raises your hand to speak. And when I call on you, you press *6. So I will open up our public comments. We do have several public hearings tonight. If you're here to speak on one of those, there will be time later in our agenda. So we have online a Ryan. Yeah, I guessing, but
sorry,
it's
it shortened up my name. It's Ryan Jensen. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Hi, Ryan.
No, thank you, Chair. No, I just I left because my child was gonna blow up the whole meeting, so I had to leave. No, I just my question or my public comment was just really quickly about the self-funded plans. You know, at the end of the day, I don't care what you guys do if you go to self-funded or fully insured. Just know, you know, my background is I've done healthcare policy since 2015. I used to specialize in wrongful denials from insurers, especially for those with mental health treatment and substance abuse through the Mental Health Parity Act. So, you know, that is a big change to go from self-funded to fully insured. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the administrator or the self-funded plan gets to choose the benefits, just as an FYI. So with your fully insured plan, you have the 10 essential health benefits, which is prescriptions, you know, pregnancies, so forth. So there's a list of things that are automatically covered, and those sometimes, especially mental health or, you know, a larger claim, something that might happen, a really expensive procedure might not be covered. So I'd encourage you all to look at the summary benefits plan description booklet. I don't know if any of you looked at the actual benefits and compared the plans. I do like the idea if you're going self-funded, if you do, definitely do the reinsurance pool. That's a smart play. That's something that will save you guys. And in case of one of those big claims that might come in, those catastrophes that might come in, the reinsurance pool is really smart. So, but keep in mind, you know, like when Councilman Green brought up recession and the R word, if something does happen like that, understand what's the first thing to go. That's benefits under a self-employed plan. That's the easiest thing to cut. We noticed that with a lot of jobs, right? Recently, when with COVID, a lot of people lost their health insurance due to their jobs. So just a few things to think about, and I appreciate the time to speak. And again, you can't really make a bad choice. 60% of Utahns have a self-funded plan through their work anyway. So thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. I neglected to mention that we will give you 3 minutes to speak. We're in this new place, and I realized I don't have my timer, but I do have my cell phone, so I'll be using that. So next up is Ryan Wilkinson. Ryan, go ahead. Ryan, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Okay, hello.
Hi.
Hey,
you have 3 minutes.
Okay, well, I moved to West Jordan in mid-March. I have a problem with the constant noise from the South Valley Regional Airport. I understand that the airport is owned by Salt Lake City and not West Jordan. However, I'm discussing this issue because it is an obvious and evident problem, and I don't see West Jordan doing anything about it. I'm also an attorney licensed to practice in Utah. Keep that in mind. My bar number is 14030. Pursuant to Utah Code 78B6 -1101, a nuisance is anything that is injurious to health, indecent, offensive to the senses, or an obstruction to the free use of property, so as to interfere with the comfortable enjoyment of life or property. The aircraft noise from the airport is offensive to my senses and is an obstruction to the free use of my real property because it interferes with the comfortable enjoyment of my property. It is a nuisance. From 7:30 a.m. to as late as 11 p.m., 7 days a week, there's aircraft flying over and adjacent to my property. Couple this with the constant commercial jetliners that fly overhead and the military helicopters that are somehow allowed to fly at low altitude over my home. It's like I'm living in a war zone. The only reprieve is very late at night, and even then, there are occasional aircraft coming and going from the airport. In the few short weeks I've lived in West Jordan, I've reached out to numerous agencies and individuals concerning these problems. I spoke with Patty Nellis, the environmental programs manager with the Salt Lake City Department of Airports, and with Jeff Smith with the Salt Lake City Airport Authority. Ms. Nellis informed me that most of the aircraft coming and going from the airport belong to hobbyists, that's her word, and is not crucial to business or related concerns. With this fact in mind, I'm curious what the West Jordan City Council's position on this issue is. By allowing this problem to continue to fester, West Jordan City clearly values the rights of hobbyists to fly their planes at the airport over the rights of people like me who have purchased homes in West Jordan and who are forced to pay property taxes here. By not intervening and curtailing the noise caused by the incessant aircraft, you are essentially telling me that you value an individual's hobby over your own constituents' well-being, solitude, and enjoyment of life. If you disagree with me on about this point, I'm forced to ask why the problem persists and why people like me have to address it with you, because clearly you have done nothing about it. Again, you value the rights of hobbyists over your own voters and neighbors. This is both disappointing and disgusting. As further evidence of West Jordan's astounding disinterest and omission, I emailed my regional city council representative, Zach Jacob, on April 5th. I have yet to hear back from him. You are being publicly shamed now, sir. Despite hearing from Ms. Nellis and Mr. Smith multiple times during the same period, I've yet to hear from Mr. Jacob. It is partially due to being ignored by Mr. Jacob why I'm forced to appear today. I've spent the last few weeks researching the aircraft noise problem and was advised by Ms. Nellis to begin documenting it. After talking to her last Friday afternoon.
Thank you. Your time is up. Ryan Wilkinson. Okay, Alan, I'm looking. I don't see anyone else online. Do you?
I do not see anyone else online. It would be appropriate to see if anyone here desired to speak.
You think? Great idea. I was going to do that, actually. Is there anyone here that would like to address the council? You'll have 3 minutes and you can talk to us about anything, sir. But unruly behavior, we do have a sergeant in arms.
Did you say allow me to talk? Do I have to get a vote 4 to 3 to talk? Thank you for this opportunity to speak as a citizen, not a member of the council. I did enjoy my time on the council, and I know after that citizen comment, I'm sure all 7 of you are enjoying your time on the council this afternoon. But I'm coming today to speak in favor of the Arts Center. Before I was even on the council, the Arts Center was put into motion probably years before I was on the council. And the previous council before me set aside $6 million. Actually, I think it was more than that, but that's how much is left from that time. I know that there's been one person that's been out there that has really put their opinion forth that we should not do the Arts Center. And I get it. There's a cost. There's a cost to everything. There's a cost to have police. There's a cost to have parks. There's a cost to have fire in our city. But the cost, although it is going to be more than we thought it would be here in the city, is an opportunity to support the arts with this Arts Center. And this Arts Center will be more than just for the arts. And I've talked to Vic and the Arts Council many times about it. It's not just for them, it's for the whole city. We don't have a place where people can congregate. City Hall is great for city council, and the rooms there are great to meet for small opportunities. But I really do think an arts center would be a great opportunity for our city, and that we should still plan to move forward. I do think without the pandemic in 2020, that thing would be built right now, because that's what has put this off until now. So as you hear from one person or 2 people that are against it, know that I am one of probably more than 100 people that are for the Arts Center to keep moving forward. Don't take that money and put it to something else. Keep it for the Arts Center, and let's move forward. Let's get this thing done, because this opportunity is just going to go to waste again, and you're going to have more people up here every year asking why we haven't built that Arts Center. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council? Seeing none, let me double check and make sure no one popped up online. Okay, close this comment period. Councilmember McConaughey, did you have something?
Thank you, Chair. Off microphone, the two folks that came through on the Zoom need to be removed from the ability to speak if they could potentially unmute themselves. They've got the little microphone icon next to them that they can unmute themselves. Okay, we're good. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Next on our agenda is executive reports from the mayor and the city attorney. Mayor. No, not the city administrator, not the attorney.
Thank you, council. I'm going to stand so I can see you way over there. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share with you a couple of things that happened with me this last 30 weeks, actually, it's been since our last meeting. As you may know, we are in Ramadan right now, which means for those people of the Islamic faith, that means that they don't eat after sunrise, and they fast until sunset. They do that every day for the entire month. And when they break their fast, there's a special pattern where they do that. Well, there was a couple of events where I was invited to join them as they break their fast. One's with where Mayor Mendenhall in Salt Lake City, and the other was right here with our own Muslims here in West Jordan, although they held it over at the Larry Miller Center in Sandy. Yes, I went out of town for it, but it was worth it. And I had a great experience in working with them and mingling with them, and they were very kind and welcoming, and it was really good. As you know, with that mosque we have here in West Jordan, they've had voting centers over there where people have gone and voted. They've had some immunizations and opportunities for testing, and they've opened it for the community. So just know that they want to be part of the community, and they're doing a very good job to mingle with us. And that center is open. So if we have some needs for congregating there, we work with them, and they said they would like to accommodate us in that. So be aware of that. Last week I went and saw a play, speaking of the Sugar Factory Playhouse, and saw Dear Ruth. Have any of you guys seen Dear Ruth? Did you laugh? That is a very funny play. That one's not a musical, although I did hear music as people were laughing. It was music to my ears. It was extremely funny. And the caliber of talent that the Sugar Factory Playhouse puts on is the best I've seen anywhere in the high expensive places that I go to frequently. So thank you for permitting our Arts Council to put these plays on and continue to provide this culture environment for our residents. Also, West Jordan High School and Copper Hills High School each had their own day of service where they were cleaning up the ball fields. One was here at Veterans Memorial Park, and the other one was at Ronwood Park. So if you notice that they look better, there's a reason for that. The volunteers got out there and cleaned the park up and made it look really good. In addition to that, there was another group that did the that did Barney's Creek on just Saturday. Went out there. It was a little bit chilly and cool, but they were diligent and cleaned up that park up and that goalie up as well. So that was good. Next week, Shrek starts. So if you get an opportunity to get to Shrek to see what the Sugar Factory Playhouse is putting on, I recommend that one. I already have my tickets for it. I'm looking forward to it. And so you are aware, next week is you are aware of the Utah League of Cities and Towns conferences next week. It goes kind of Wednesday night, but really Thursday and Friday. Well, I decided that that's a great opportunity for me, so I'm going to be there, and I know 4 of you are going to be there. I will be leaving early Monday morning. I'm getting a ride to Fillmore, and then I'm going to try biking it from Fillmore to St. George. However, I will be available by telephone because I have ordered a special helmet that has Bluetooth in it so I can talk and listen to my phone conversations while I'm riding my bicycle. So if you need to reach me on those 3 days while I'm riding to St. George, I will be accessible. So two other items. Well, just a minute. I'm going to let my COA handle those other 2 items. Anyway, this Saturday, we have our Easter egg hunt. I look forward to seeing y'all at the Easter egg hunt, all of you. We have a place for the older kids as well as the younger kids. So come collect Easter eggs. That'll be at the soccer field Saturday at 9 a.m. Look forward to seeing you there. Thank you. That's my report for today.
Council, I want to ask a couple of department heads to come give you some reports. Denise Steck to give you an update about passports. Brian Clegg to give you an update about Constitution Park. Tanya to give you an update about the communication efforts regarding our change in garbage day for a few residents. And Isaac to give you an update about events and remodel if needed. And then I have a comment at the end of that.
Sorry, we don't have a mic at our table. We just wanted to report to you that March was one of the busiest months that we've done with passports, especially in the small and confined space that they have to issue passports now. They issued 779 passports in the month of March. That's a lot of passports and a lot of people coming through City Hall, experiencing the great customer service that Tangi and her department provides. So we're going to be giving them a hats off award because they've just done an incredible job of providing great customer service. A lot of agencies now are not issuing passports anymore, like the post office. If they don't have to, they're sending them to us, and we're very grateful. So just wanted to let you know that they've done great work. Thank you.
Hi, Council. I get the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about our garbage change day and how we're communicating with residents and where we're in that process. As you're aware, in February, we were notified by ACE that we needed to make some adjustments because of the growth in our city. Those adjustments are going to take place on May 2nd. So sometimes my field doesn't seem like a science. It is. We are using numbers to facilitate a multi-pronged communication program that goes in different phases. So one was a direct mail piece. We mailed to about just under 5,000 residents who will be affected by this change. This went directly to their homes. And it directed them both to the website or to call if they had questions about the changes. That went out about 2 weeks ago now. We're following that up largely with email communication with the residents that are being affected. That is going directly to affected residents only. And we're using an email system that will retarget. So if they open the email, they'll get one email. If they don't open the email, they'll get the first email. And then if they don't open it 3 days later, they'll get a second email with a different, slightly different title, and so on. So we can keep retargeting. Just so you're aware of the numbers, about 3 to 5% of people we anticipate look at a direct mailer and will respond that way. About 49 to 52% of our residents open our emails. And when we do those staggered campaigns, we can usually get up to about 68%. So we think this is a really effective way of communicating with our residents. We're also putting information in the journal. We've been putting information on social media, and we've reached about 18,000 residents now that way. And so with the social media. So I think we're pretty well covered. We do anticipate that there will be some challenges. Some people may not get those notices or may forget. So we have put together an online reporting form where people can go and report that their house has been missed, and ACE will be sending out trucks either that same day or the very next day, depending on when that report is placed. So that's how we'll capture those last few households. And then we'll also be doing a reminder right before that May 6th transition, or that May 2nd transition. I'm happy to take any questions about the communication or about the change.
So I just have a question.
Yep.
I don't really remember everything in that ACE contract, but it seems just that they should help flip the bill for changing days, are they contributing in any way to getting the word out?
Well, they're helping us in our planning. They're helping us identifying the households. However, our contract does not require them to help pay for the communication.
So they can change days and add costs to us
with 60 days notice.
Okay.
That sounds like something we need to modify the contract with when it comes up.
Yeah, I was going to say, just going from memory, the only thing I remember in their contract that was required was education regarding recycling, and it was de minimis.
They do. This has been a very inexpensive campaign for us. All told, I think we'll end up spending under $2,500. So we're communicating broadly, but we're not experiencing a large price tag.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Council Chair and Council. Just wanted to give you a quick update on Constitution Park. Staff is going to be mobilizing over there. We have fixed the outlet structure now, so the water should leave the park. Staff fixed that a few weeks ago. Once the park fills up, it should drain quicker, which won't kill the grass and turn it anaerobic. You will see some significant difference there. There's going to be a lot of cobble rock in front of the outlet structure, probably about 140 feet out from the southwest of the outlet structure in the corner there. There's roughly about 16,000 square feet of rock that we're going to put in there, and then another 72,000 square feet of sod. So you'll have a distinct border of where the water will be able to drain and sit and not kill grass. We're hopeful we were going to start this week, but the weather changed that. We have a schedule. We're hopeful to have it completed by the end of May and out of there. So if everything goes right with the weather and getting the supplies we need. So that's all I got, unless you guys have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you're tired of hearing from me today, so just one quick thing about Constitution Park. That amount of rock that they're putting in will help us with water conservation. We're deadheading a lot of the irrigation system in that area. So, and they've worked very closely with our Parks Division to make sure that we're not diminishing the field uses. They're just being adjusted so they all fit still. So, first of all, special events. We have one of our larger events that reached out to the community this weekend, the Easter egg hunt. Lindsay and Sherry have been working really hard on that. We've got over 25,000 eggs and a lot of candy that's going to be put out. We appreciate the efforts of the people that are volunteering for that. And she may have snuck out. I was going to try and embarrass Lindsay a little bit. Lindsay has turned in her resignation. She's got a great opportunity to go to Salt Lake City and run their events division in the parks. We are definitely going to miss her and her efforts. I wish she was here. But one thing I do want you guys to know is she gave her notice. She will be working Saturday. She's committed to the city and the things that she's done. People have been asking me, am I worried about the Western Stampede and the other big events? In all honesty, I am not. She's done a great job in preparing those and having the contracts ready. We will be relying a lot on our volunteers, as we always do. But she's leaving us in a very good place. So I want to thank her for that. As far as the remodel, or there anything else I can rehash or bore you more about?
8 months, right?
That our contract. Our contractor, from start to end, their estimated dates are 360 days. The other contracts that we reviewed were 540 days. So.
Is there any penalty for, sometimes you work into contracts, those?
Yeah. No, there is not a penalty in that because it's so difficult to identify whose fault that was for that. And there's also some material shortages, but we've already met with them and talked to them about those, the ones that we know that are extended periods of time. And from your guys' actions tonight, we will give them a notice to proceed tomorrow, and they'll have those things ordered shortly.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. That deficiency document that you mentioned in the work session earlier, is that something that's already been sent or could be sent to us?
Absolutely. It's rather large, but yes, I'll get it to you.
I'd very much like to read that. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Vice Chair Green.
My question was just converse of Council Chair's Whitelock. She asked if there was any penalties. I was just going to ask if there are any bonuses for finishing on time and under budget.
No, there isn't.
No way we can add those to give them an incentive to go to.
We'll definitely look into this and see if there's an opportunity. Thank you.
Sorry, my last comment the mayor's going to share.
Corbin's trying to lose his voice, so I'm going to do this last part anyway. We have 2 residents in West Jordan who have won the 2022 Best of State. And one of them is in here right now. The other one's not. I'll tell you who the other one is first. It is a public safety officer, Ken Wallentine. So that is good news there. And the other person that won is a elected local official, and that is David Pack. So congratulations to David Pack for winning the 2022 Best of State.
Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda are our public hearings. First, no. Oh, I am so sorry. Where's Vic? He's hiding back there. Yes. Vic, would you like to come up and report to us?
Is that it? Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to make one correction. I usually don't go around correcting the mayor, but Shrek is actually a production not of the Sugar Factory Playhouse, but of West Jordan Youth Theater. And so it's important to recognize the good work that our West Jordan Youth Theater does, which is one of 8 organizations, along with Sugar Factory Playhouse, of Cultural Arts Society of West Jordan. So, and that's what I'm here to speak to you about. Wow, this is oriented the wrong way, isn't it? Or maybe I am. Chair and Council, thank you for inviting me to speak to you today. I've met most of you, and I've talked to Council Member Bloom on the phone. There are a lot of things that go into the funds that we are requesting, that we have requested in the past. In the slide presentation, I am assuming that you can see that on your screens, that an event programming summary from July 2021 to June 2022, 10 concerts, 3 art shows, and those art shows, since we don't have an art gallery anymore, that's probably where they will end, at least for the time being, until we can find another place to display art. 3 Sugar Factory Playhouse productions. We typically do 4 in a year, but that was left over from COVID. And our budget for 2022 to June 2023 also includes 10 concerts, 1 art show, and I'll talk about that specifically in a minute. 3 youth theater productions. That's actually 2 productions and a workshop, and then 4 productions for the Sugar Factory Playhouse.
the art show, even though we won't have a gallery, we are working. We've begun working with the city with events and administration on doing an Arts in the Park in spring of 2023. We wanted to do it 2022, and then between COVID and getting it going, it was just too quick, and so we're planning it for spring of 2023. Working on dates, working on the venue, working on those kinds of things that we need to be able to do an Arts in the Park. There is, at the end of the packet, at the end of the presentation, there is a detailed list of event programming. Next slide. Can I get the next? Thank you. The Salt Lake County ZAP grant, we do hire one employee, part-time employee. She has the title of executive director, and she is with the 8 organizations that we manage. She is vital to that, to the smooth running, the application of grants, the follow-up, everything that needs to be done. We have been awarded a Salt Lake County ZAP employee grant of $10,000 per year for 3 years. However, we have not been able to draw on those funds because we have not received, because they are matching funds, dollar for dollar matching funds from another public entity, and that for us, it was from the city of West Jordan. So they have been included in and we can do this in arrears. And so we can get that money still from, we've been in touch with the county ZAP organization, and we can still get the money from them for the monies that we have put out towards our employee. This is a program that ZAP started probably about 6 or 8 years ago and has not been utilized very well or very much. And so they were excited when we wanted to take advantage of that, and so were we. And however, yeah, this is part of why I'm speaking to you, is so that we can receive those monies that were budgeted, and that's why I'm here. From the city as well as from the county. Now, this does not impact our the other ZAP grants that we apply for and have received. This is an employee grant that goes strictly to the employee. It includes training, it includes salary, it includes all kinds of things, but just for the employee. Next slide, please. We at the Cultural Arts Society of West Jordan, as I've explained, we have 8 organizations that we manage. This is 2 theater organizations, 3 bands, a symphony, a literary arts, and a visual arts group. We are committed to strengthening our financial and corporate accountability. We recently we did go through a financial review, which brought to light some weaknesses that we have since shored up, and we will be changing our fiscal year, which is currently March 1 to February, to the end of February. We will be changing that so that it will be the same as the city's fiscal year. We feel that that's an important step for us, not only to align with the city, but with other mainly public entities as well. It'll make it it makes a lot more sense, basically. Beginning in July 2022, we will commit to an annual financial audit.
We have learned a lot during this financial review, one of which is that a financial review is not as valuable to us as a financial audit. Being that the financial review that we received, when they were finished, they walked away. We had no chance to discuss exceptions and to repair those with the reviewer. With an audit, we will work with an auditor, and if there are exceptions, then we will be able to work directly with the auditor and be able to correct any exceptions. In the summer of 2022, we will be working with a consultant to help us bolster our financial, business, and marketing positions to assure future strength and sustainability. We are starting a partnership, an arrangement with Pathway Associates, who has worked with the city before, and a lot of you may know Holly Yoakum, who will be the consultant who will be working directly with us, who has recently worked for the county for the last 7 years, and then has recently moved to a private organization, which was Pathway Associates. We're looking forward to tapping into her knowledge and expertise that can help us be stronger and also to grow. We are seeking additional grants, sponsorships, and donations to allow us to add even more diversity in programming to our schedule. We're partnering with Pro Screening to protect our investment in people by running background checks on all employees, leadership volunteers, and anyone working directly with children. We just want to assure the council that the public funding we receive is well invested and well protected. On the next page is our financial summary. There's a large difference because of COVID between our 21-22 fiscal year and our 22-23 fiscal year. A lot of that also is the effect of not having received grants from the city of West Jordan for the past 2 years, and so we've had to hold back on some of the things that we normally would do, but we look forward to moving forward with that, and being able to continue the programming that has been planned and has been budgeted. So with that, I'm going to leave it there for now. Are there any questions or comments or can I just say one more thing first? I'm sorry. What we're seeking is $30,000 of the $60,000 that was budgeted for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. We don't, as I explained last May, we're not seeking the entire $60,000. And the reason is because because we didn't have the programming during that time, but we still had fixed costs. We are also seeking the $60,000 that was budgeted for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. So that's what we're seeking by this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Green.
Well, I'm trying to figure this out. The West Jordan City Council in November of 19 authorized a payment to the Cultural Arts Society of West Jordan, and an agreement was signed that there would be financial audits presented to the council every March. There was a substantial amount of money, and I will tell you for the calendar year of 2019. It was a good chunk of money. In that fiscal year of 2019, that would have been in your fiscal year that ended the end of February, there was a considerable sum of money that the city council authorized that's not in your report. We didn't ever get the report that was due March 1st, 2020. We're only getting 2 reports now. So we're getting 2 reports. And one of them's not there after 3 years. My goal is that I have to protect taxpayer money. I am not against the arts. And in fact, I did a little bit of research the last couple of weeks, and I'd love to be able to stand here and fund the arts the way West Valley does. If anybody ever knows West Valley, they got 15 employees that work in their arts division. Their budget runs about $1.5 million, and it cost the city $472,000 the last budget. They do that well of a job of fundraising and figuring out where to get money. So I'm not against the arts. I'd love to do that. Given what you've said, with that you're changing the financial, you're changing your fiscal year. I think and a couple of these other things, I think that we need to rework the agreement. The majority of the agreement, as I've read through it, is turning in reports and giving those kind of things. And I have a difficult time if I move 2 states. If I went 2 states to the left and pulled out my law license, I'd have a hard time saying that you're in substantial compliance with that agreement. And so my thought is, before I vote for any release of the funds, I'd like to see the report that was due March 1st, 2020, that covered the disbursement that was issued in November I believe it was November 14th, if I remember the email right. I'd like to see some accounting of that. And I think that before I vote in favor of anything else, I'd like to see us rework the agreement so that we align the presentation with the report, with everything that matches the fiscal year. And maybe it's due because the fiscal year doesn't close out, but maybe there's a preliminary report that's due in May, or a final report that's due in July or August, with us authorizing the supplemental or the release of what we budgeted later on. I don't know what the terms of that agreement would look like, but with that, I will shut up.
Councilmember Worthen.
Okay. I don't think it's a secret that I've been the one that has raised flags about the building. It's financial, strictly financial. My husband does beautiful artwork, is an artist. My daughter used to be in Up with Kids and has done many performances. And I love the arts. I love going to Hale Theater. It's zero to do with any of that. There's nothing personal in business. Business is business. It's purely financial. It comes down to, I've been around since Craig Deering brought me in. I was volunteer for the West Jordan Chamber. So I'm very aware of the Sugar House Factory. When they looked at getting that remodeled, and your group was to do some fundraising, and fell very far short of the fundraising to be able to take care of that. And of course, that all fell away years ago and is neither here nor there. But I got several questions. First of all, the financial report is, it to me just doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know if anybody else has questions on this, but I actually spoke with a friend of mine that is a financial accountant, and I was like, I don't understand some of the things on here. You have fundraising as an expense, correct?
Budgeted.
Yeah, as an expense. Yeah, on
Mhm.
the, okay. And I'm looking at I believe it's a QuickBooks report or something similar to that. You in 2020, 2021, it was 17,000, a little over $17,000 in 2021, 2022, over 15, close to $16,000. But what did you make from those fund? I mean, I don't see where it's explained what those fundraising events are and where where's the money from the fundraising events?
Where are you looking?
I'm looking on your income statements.
I'm not an accountant either, but I know that I'm responsible for the accounting. We have a hired accountant, and I don't know the answer to all the questions, but I will now.
So really my question is, if you spent 17,000 one year and close to 16,000, then I mean, 17,700 and 15,900, and each one of those years, what fundraising events did you do that this money went to, and what income did you, I mean, hopefully when you're doing a fundraiser, you make money. So where's the income from those particular events?
Okay, I see in the income statement of March 2020 through February of 2021, salaries and benefits are $11,380.
That's under the fundraising. So
Right.
I guess that's my question is,
Right.
what was the events?
And also fundraising, salaries and wages, and total salaries and benefits, $9,326 under fundraising. Why that was under fundraising, I have no idea. I don't know why that should not have been listed under fundraising. And that's a question that we have put to our accountant. So
Okay.
it should not be under fundraising.
Okay.
That is under salaries. Unless our accountant assumed that, yeah, I can't even say.
Okay. So, I mean, that's just where my questions come in. I'm a numbers person. I mean, my background's business management. I do some accounting work as well. Not professionally, but more bookkeeping work. So I'm very familiar with these types of things. And I look at this and I just I don't understand that. And I don't see a list of, fundraisers or where that money went or how much money was made from those. You did answer my question on the ZAP grant so you are required, you only get matched for that if you get a public entity to give you that money.
Correct.
It could be any public entity. It doesn't have to be our city.
I believe so.
Okay. Have you talked to other public entities to see if that could be an option?
Public entities such as?
It's your group. I'm just asking if you've had any other.
No, we are the Cultural Arts Society of West Jordan, and so we have an LAA agreement with the city of West Jordan. So no.
What would be the cost of the consultant if you brought the consultant on?
That will be determined. We just barely made contact with them.
Okay.
And so it will be determined by how much work we have them do for us. That has not been determined yet. It would be over a period of time. An estimation would be $10,000.
Okay.
But we believe that we would not enter into that agreement with them unless we believed that they would add that value back to our nonprofit.
Okay. I apologize. I have to correct myself on my numbers. The fundraising expenses were 11,300 in 2021 and then 9,300 in 2021, 22. What I was looking at was your income for 2020 to 2021. You have an income of 17,700, and then the 2021 and 2022 was 15,900. That's your total income for all your shows, for everything you did.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
And can I make one correction?
Sure.
Councilmember Worthen, that the group that was working with to remodel the sugar factory and make it into an art center, that was not this same group.
Okay.
That was a completely different group.
Okay. You see my struggles? I look at this and I see a minimal amount of money that's being raised. I see financial documents that have a lot of holes in them, with lots and lots of questions. I just can't, I have to defend, like Councilman Green just said, we have to defend what we say to the public. Why are we spending your money? I mean, it's our money too. We all live here, but it's our neighbors' money. It's everybody that everybody that lives here. We have to defend that money. And I can't defend giving this group anything at this point with the way these financials look. I mean, they're not in great shape. The money that you're making, your income is extremely low. We have you have others, other places you could perform. You have been performing throughout the years without having an actual building built. You have the new Mid Valley, which has been built. And from what I understand, they'd be happy to work with you. Tyler over at the library, happy to work with you. I mean, I've known these people. So I struggle and I have to defend that dollar. I mean, that's what we have to do. There's also an issue of wants versus needs. And I've said this multiple times. When you can't make your house payment, you don't go buy a new truck. And I mean, I've watched my dollars in my own home. The last several years, and I don't care what year it is. I don't care if there's a pandemic. I don't care what it is. People need to be financially sound, making sure they're paying for their needs above wants. I'm not saying the arts are not valuable. 100%. I think the arts are valuable. I think, especially in our society today, we need an outlet beyond video games and sitting in front of a television. And especially now in today's world, we need more of the human to be able to actually go to see something and see people. There's a definite, that is needed, but it's not an essential need. When you're in tough times and you're in tight times, I think Chad left. Oh no, he's in the back. I mean, he made the comments that everything costs money. Yes, everything does cost money. We need our police force. That's not an option. We need our fire. That's not an option. We can't put an ambulance out of service to give money to something else. That doesn't make any sense. That we have to save lives. There are things that we have to do, needs that we have to pay, and that's where I stand. It just doesn't give me the adequate information to show me that it makes sense to spend the constituents' dollars with the amount of money that you're bringing in and the holes in your financials. I would love to see you thrive. I 100% would love to see you thrive. I don't know how you're going to do that. I would love you to come back next year and say, Councilmember Worthen, we raised $200,000 this last year, over this last year. And believe me, I understand how hard it is. That's what I did for a living for a long time. I did it for the chamber. I did it for the paper. I helped run the state spelling bee. And believe me, trying to get money for the state spelling bee, people don't want to support that much anymore. I get it. I know how hard it is, but you've got to do that. As far as I'm concerned, you've got to prove to me that I can say it's safe to give you the citizens' dollars in a time where we've got to take care of our needs before we take care of a want. So again, I don't want to offend any of you sitting here. I see the value in what you do. I would love to come see you perform, but I cannot, in any good conscience, give you any money at this point.
Thank you. And that's the reason why we had the financial review done, is because some of these same things came up last year. And I don't mean to be offensive, but I appreciate you supporting the city of Sandy by going seeing shows at Hale Center. And not one person on the council came to see Dear Ruth. And did anybody not receive an email? Okay, with emails were sent with free tickets to each one of you.
Okay, we have council member Pack that is up to ask his questions.
Thank you.
One thing.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and thank you for all of the efforts that you do to support the arts in West Jordan. And thank you, Councilmember Worthen. I hear you and I always want to listen. It's my nature also to offer a devil's advocate point of view, no matter what is said, to ensure that topics are addressed from all angles. And I wonder, because being a nonprofit with the arts, it's not necessarily inherent in your program to turn a profit. Of course, you want to be financial stewards, wise fiscally, but making a profit isn't necessarily the main idea, putting on plays and musicals. And I wonder if we haven't handcuffed you by not having a West Jordan arts facility. And do we really want West Jordan to put on productions in Taylorsville? I think the arts have an intrinsic value and that there is great worth in having arts in society. I think of pioneers as they came into the valley. What are the first things they built? They built churches, schools, and theater where they could perform, and you can see life through the eyes of other characters, and it helps you understand your own life. Something else that I have done in life is I started a nonprofit college that is graduating its first four-year graduating class with a Bachelor of Arts degrees this month. And their teachings are founded, well, the curriculum is founded on the writings of the founding fathers and the books that they studied. And so my mind goes back to John Adams, who, to paraphrase, said, I must study war so that my sons can study architecture, and so that their sons can then study art. So thankfully, we're in a society, unlike others in the world at this time, where we can focus on higher level arts instead of just a daily subsistence of if we're going to eat. Now, granted, there's always those people in society. I'm not trying to turn a blind eye, but I'm saying society in general here in our city, I believe that the arts would have an intrinsic value over and above turning a profit. I don't necessarily see any fiscal mismanagement. Could facts and figures be presented in a more articulate fashion in terms of accounting? Perhaps, but I understand that that's not your main focus. And if you have a budget, then perhaps you could have someone that would be able to prepare those. But what does it look like if you aren't given funding and you're left to your own fundraising? What do you foresee arts being the next year or two here in West Jordan?
If we are left with it, except for our one part-time employee, we are all volunteers. We all have full-time jobs. So it's not like we can spend time on the phone during the day fundraising. We can't. And we, when I was approached, probably
6 years ago by the city manager, who asked me to if I would take on this this large project, this large nonprofit. It was with the understanding that it would be greatly funded by the city of West Jordan, and that we would not be that we would not that we would not have to struggle financially, and that we would represent the city, even though we were not part of the city. If we are not, if we don't receive funding by the city of West Jordan, we will not exist.
Well, thank you. So nonprofits don't exist to turn a profit, but you need money to stay in business, basically.
Correct.
What you're saying. Thank you. So inherent in the formation of your group, the assumption was that you would be receiving funding from the city without necessarily having to turn a profit on that. I guess there would be other profit that could be coming in terms of people coming to see the show, ticket sales, going to dinner. But then again, if that's not occurring within the city of West Jordan, then that's
well. And another example of that is we have 4 instrumental groups, and we do not collect any admission fee for any of the instrumental groups, and yet they still have expenses. They still have, and now we're going to have to rent rehearsal space because we don't have a city hall to rehearse in, and it's just without the funding from the city of West Jordan, it's not sustainable.
Well, thank you. It's just my opinion that the arts elevate society and community, and would lead to a better environment. So thank you.
Councilmember Bloom.
A couple questions. Is there a deadline on the grant? If we're still holding it as we wait for certain financials to come in, is there a deadline, use it or lose it? Does anybody know? All right. I would like to know that, just out of curiosity. And then when it comes to fundraising, I get that it's hard. I mean, even if you hire someone that takes a percentage of whatever's, donated, could be an option to help get funds in here. So you guys aren't just relying on volunteers, but I do agree with both sides. If we can get the financials cleaned up, Councilman Wuthern asked the questions that I already had come up with, with what was discrepancy and that finances, but I would like to see some cleaned up budgets come through. I want to know that if we do give the money, because I agree with Councilmember Pack here that it brings people in the community, they go out to eat, they spend money in our community. It's a good thing. It is a really good thing. I grew up in the arts. My 20-year career is in arts, so it's my bread and butter my entire life, so I understand. But I do have concerns about the financial reports, as others have said. I would love to see them cleaned up and brought back to us as soon as possible. And I would love to give that grant to you guys because I know it elevates the community in so many levels. But yeah, think outside the box and getting that fundraising going, because we can do this and we can make this successful in West Jordan. So I'm cheering for all of it. And I just wanted to give my 2 cents really fast.
Councilmember Green.
Okay, so I do have one comment, just so you know.
Thank you.
On the tickets, I won't use them, and the reason why is because they're and Rob's smiling. He knows where I'm going with this, don't you, Rob? As an elected official, we've got some ethics requirements that once the gifts hit a certain amount, it makes it. And so for that particular thing, so I don't have to keep track, I just don't use your ticket. So understand that's why, because I'm going to steer clear of the Ethics Act issue. The question that I do have is with the matching grant from Salt Lake County, why doesn't it, does it have to be a cash grant from the city? Because over the course of the last couple of years, the Cultural Arts Society of West Jordan has I'm going to say a substantial. I'm not sure what the value is. In the original quid pro quo, it was upwards of $50K a year, because of waived fees. We've waived the fees in City Hall. Why don't those in-kind grants count for anything with the county?
Yeah, you'd have to ask the county. My understanding is that it is cash match.
Okay, but I don't disagree with Council Member Pack. I'd love to give you some money. I'm with Council Member Bloom and Council Member Whitelock. I just like to see a couple of things cleaned up. So that's where I'm at. So
thank you.
Thanks.
Council Member Green, we're happy for you to pay for your tickets to still come to the show.
You asked for that.
No, that's okay. We have a lot of people who don't use their comp tickets, but we just sent that in appreciation. You probably check your emails, because I know that we sent them twice, and because the mayor said that he didn't see his, and so we sent him again, and yeah. And I know that the ones for Shrek have also gone out. So yeah.
I didn't get that.
I've seen both. Councilmember Worthen.
Okay, well, I'm being left off the list. So I would love to get a list of all your performances, because it'd be great. I haven't gotten the emails, but and I do check them every day. Every morning I log in, and every evening before I log
I'll
off,
make sure that
I check all my emails. So first of all, you have done a really good job over the last 2 years without city funding. So I just don't believe with the people that you say that support the council, or the council, the arts community, that it would go away. That doesn't add up. You have done a great job without our funding for the last 2 years, and you've done it through a pandemic. So you definitely deserve kudos for that. And I'm going to ask Ms. Steck to kind of clarify this a little bit better than I can. But
Denise.
Denise, this is where I'm going to ask for you to clarify this. I think it would make sense, and I think she'd be better at articulating this than I am, to have a quick pro quo study done to see. I'd like to see what exactly we're getting back and how many residents are actually participating in the arts community. And I don't mean people that are coming to your shows. I mean actual people that are part of the band and part of the performances. And Denise, maybe you can articulate that better than I am.
I
No,
understand.
I want a new one.
Are you wanting it for the future, or are you wanting it for the past?
Can we have both? It'd be nice to compare.
Yeah.
Really.
So in essence, what you're looking for is, what is the value that you're getting for $60,000 that benefit your community directly? It's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yes.
So how many people from the community are participating in the arts program? How much?
I don't mean attending the shows. But that would be a nice separate number actually to have.
It'd be good to have attendance. How many people are participating in the programs that are being enhanced? And then what was your other one? I'm so sorry.
That was basically, I was just saying what we're getting back from it.
So maybe volunteer hours from West Jordan residents and the value of those hours, or what kind of programs they're volunteering for. It's probably similar to what was done in 2019, I would imagine.
So, and I actually, you brought up a very good point. I would check back with the county on that ZAP grant and say, the city has in trade in kind and whatever it is, that, and maybe they'll take that. If they would, I would definitely ask that question. The other thing is, have you communicated with Chamber West to speak to them about how they could possibly help you? They are the chamber for West Jordan. They might be, and they're not super expensive. They might be Barbara is phenomenal. I've known her for years. So that might be another connection that can help you with sponsorships and getting the word out and things like that. So again, I don't disagree with David. The biggest thing I disagree with that building is its location. It's a poor location for you guys. I'm sorry.
I disagree, but
Well,
that's okay.
I'm just saying that's just,
that's not what we're talking
yeah, for
about today,
sponsorships and
so,
things like that. I mean,
yeah,
but as far as
that's
all
okay.
this goes, yeah, I mean, I would like to get those studies done. I'd like to see the financials cleaned up. I'd like to know what you did for fundraising, what the actual expenses were for those fundraisers, and what the profit was on those fundraisers. I'm really curious about that. And then those other couple of things were just suggestions. I think checking with the county on that ZAP grant, great idea on that. And then maybe talking to the chamber on some ways of doing some fundraising could help.
May I comment?
Absolutely.
The last 2 years, we've taken approximately a $30,000 loss each year. So as far as congratulations on how I've managed things, maybe not so well. But with having said that, we typically keep a fairly healthy bank account. Right now, we have very, very little in our bank account. And if we were asked to go another month or two without funding, we would close our doors. That's how close we are. And particularly, and what's really the closing of City Hall has certainly not helped, because now instead of, we have storage now that we're renting. We have to rent storage instead of storing things at City Hall. We are renting rehearsal space instead of rehearsing at City Hall. These are things that are boosting our costs.
Sorry, it's already 8:20. I don't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
But it almost seems like we need to invite you in for a work meeting, and that we need, I'm hearing from my council that we need more information. And I agree with them. When I looked at the financials, I thought, in my mind, it was like, is it because I'm not a finance person, or is this just not clear? So at least I've been clarified that it's not clear. And what we need to do, and I think as a resident, you would want us to do for any organization, we want to ensure that the money that we're using, which is the residents' money, is being spent the way it's intended to be spent. And I'm not sure from what we got in our emails or what's available online that we can really ascertain that. So hopefully somehow we can work together and get it a little more clear picture. But also, I would hope that my council would be willing to release at least the 10,000 each year that we haven't given them the money in the past, so that they could access the matching grant, because you only need the 10,000 to get the match. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think that we can get that. We've been in discussions with ZAP and with the county, and I think that we can get that for 2 years ago and for last year.
So is anyone opposed to releasing 10,000 each year? Is that okay, Rob? Can we? No, we can't ask. Okay, we will put this on our next agenda. Okay.
Yeah, that would be a change to the current contract to what your previous decision was.
Okay. All right. We'll put it on our next agenda. Thank you so much for coming. And we will invite you back to a work meeting where we can have further dialogue.
Thank you. Can I communicate with you to find out exactly what it is that you want to see? Because I mean, I've produced financial reports, and we've had a financial review which was requested of us, and the stipulation for releasing the $30,000 was to have a financial review, which we did. And so if there's, I just don't want to keep having to come back and not getting what I'm after. So. So if I'll just send an email out maybe, and find out from you what really would you like to see?
That would be great. And then we can also speak with Ms. Steck as far as what reviews she's seen and what she's feeling. Okay.
Great.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on our agenda really are public hearings. The first one is to consider ordinance. Ordinance number 2208, a petition by KM8 Holding and Paxton Guyman for a rezone of approximately 5.5 acres from R1 10D zone to R1 8C zone for Hidden Cove at approximately 7136 South, 2200 West. Mr. Guyman.
Thank you, council members. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Larry, do we have the exhibits? Thank you. I'll show these as we go. Hopefully you also have the concept plan that I can go through in just a moment. So first, my name is Paxton Guyman. I'm here with my partner, Ken Melby, my youngest son, and my wife. I openly admit I answer to all three. And can you believe that? I do owe them dinner. But I think it's good for him to see what goes on at city council meetings. So what you see here is really phase 2 of our development efforts. You might remember I was here a year ago, actually just a little over a year ago, for what I refer to as the Dolly property. If you look at the map in front of you, the Dolly property is immediately adjacent to the west side of 2200 West, 1.6 acres. Last year, I was here before you asking for that parcel, which is 1.6 acres, to be rezoned from agricultural to R18. At the time, we made a commitment that there would not be more than 6 lots. That was our commitment to you, which we intended to honor. That was just for the Dolly property of 1.6 acres. As we got working through the issues with staff, we realized that there's no way we could even get 6 lots there because there's a street on the opposite side, on the east side of 2200 West. It's identified there as 7125 South, that we need to connect exactly opposite with. So from a planning perspective, you probably know that when you have an existing road, the planning preference is for a new connection road to be directly opposite. So you have a clean line, a clean connection point. Doing that will run right through the middle of the existing Dolly home, and it would take out 2 of our lots. So that property now, which we still own and we will develop, will have 4 lots instead of 6. But as we went through that process, we took the time to talk to the property owners on the west side of the canal. The 2 properties that you see on the west side of the canal, there's an existing house, which is shown in the aerial photo, as well as an old car garage, which you see as well. And we have acquired both of those parcels now, and we're now able, fortunately, to do a unified subdivision that has 2 points of access. And this is important. You'll notice there's a stub road that was already constructed years ago on the south side. It's called Helen Mar Way. It stubs right up to the southern edge of our property. We are going to be able to develop this subdivision but in a way that has an ingress from Helen Mar Road. It then goes up to the north. It then goes to the east and crosses the canal and connects out to our connection point on 2200 West. Larry, if you would please show that concept plan. Oh, sorry. I'm pointing for Larry. It's Alan. So there it is. We've gone to a lot of work dealing with city staff, city engineering, and our own engineer to come up with a subdivision design that is functional. What you'll notice on the northeast corner of this subdivision, right next to the connection point on 2200 West, we now have a storm drain detention area, which is needed for the area. This is a nice facility for the storm drain system. You'll also see now how we cross the canal and then we connect to Helen Mar Way on the south. The reason for our rezone is fairly simple. The 2 lots that we recently acquired that are west of the canal are currently zoned R110. And to make this subdivision design work, we need flexibility under the R18 zone because a few of the lots are less than 10,000 square feet. Now, what we're not doing, this is important, we are not here asking for the maximum density permissible. You probably know in this day and age, most developers are asking for townhome approvals, high density approvals. We're not doing that. We're also not planning a subdivision. If we could go back to that same concept plan. We're not going to do a subdivision where every single lot is the smallest permissible size. You'll see that we've lined this up where there's some larger lots. There's a mixture of lot sizes. This is consistent with your general plan. In fact, Our rezone application does not include a general plan amendment. The reason being, rezoning this to R18 is already consistent with what your general plan says for medium density. So this zone application, rezone, already complies with your existing general plan. And it gives us flexibility on some of those cul-de-sacs. We need to have lot sizes that are less than 10,000 square feet to make it work and to have a functional layout in this subdivision. Now, I did a little bit of math, and on the 22 lots shown, and again, we're not here for plat approval, but I know it's important for you to see what our intentions are when we get to the platting and development stage. Out of the 22 lots, the average lot size under this concept plan is 9,476 square feet. So you'll see that we're actually really close to the R110 zone anyway, but because of the variations in lot sizes, some of which are in the 8,000s, many of which are in the 9,000s, some are as much as 12,000 square feet in size, we have a nice mixture, which will allow for a variation of housing products in this area. Let's see, I don't want to take more time than necessary. The evening's getting long. I guess I just want to say that this project has taken a lot of work to assemble the 3 different parcels into common ownership so that we can develop it all in one way that makes sense. It's an infill project. We will provide much needed housing, single family houses, which is consistent with the primary goal of your general plan is for new development to provide predominantly single family housing, which we're going to do. So we're committed to the project. It's been a long time in the works, and this is an important decision for us tonight. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Are there questions for the applicant? Mr. Gardner, do you have anything to add?
Mr. Gardner did an excellent job. I'm just here for questions.
Okay. I see no questions, so we'll,
I
do see a question.
I do have a question. I can't let this question go. And Mr. Gardner or Mr. Lang, Brian left, so
Langsford.
So one of you may be able to answer this. Given the current ERU allocation that we've had, does changing and adding these 22 houses to this development, does that create any impacts on because zone 1 we know is a mess with water. Does this create a problem in zone 1 with water or sewer? I'm assuming that this drains to 70th South and not 78, so we should have a new line there.
Or the canal. Oh, sorry, that's a joke.
Or the canal, but we have a new line down 70th South because I'm well familiar with that one.
So can I answer your question
please.
first? So the utilities, water, and sewer were sized according to the land use map, which is medium density. It's not sized according to the zoning. And so I did speak to Greg Davenport and Nate Nelson, and there's no issue with, yeah. But he didn't want me to call him up to speak. Because, there is adequate utilities to service these lots.
Okay.
So. Hey, you can call him.
Nate's waiting to become the city traffic engineer as a double hat.
Okay, we'll go on with the public portion of this public hearing. If you're here to speak to this, please indicate by either raising your hand in the chat or pushing *9. Or come up to the lectern. I see no one online. We'll go to those in chambers. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your city of residence.
Yeah, so Jay Schmidt, I live on Mel Helen Way, which is adjacent to the property. And I spoke last time, and is there just 2 different groups of people?
So sir, we have a planning commission.
Okay.
And they look at that and look at these, and then it comes to the city council. So you were probably at the planning commission, and now you're at city council.
Okay.
And we have a little bit different roles.
Okay, so what's the difference in your role versus?
The planning commission gives us their recommendations. So they look at, does this fit with our general plan? Does this meet all the laws, basically?
Yeah.
And then you come to us, and we take under consideration what they've recommended, And then we look at it closer and say, is it really what is good for our community? Are there any other issues that we can see? They have to stay closer to the letter of the law, and we can go more to the spirit of the law. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense. Anyway, I'm all in favor of this. I'm excited to see this develop. My grandparents, Melvin and Helen, it was actually their property, and so when the subdivision was divided, we bought a lot next to Grandma because Grandma was still alive. But yeah, we're excited for this to go through. I don't see a problem. We've actually given them some suggestions on how to get some more property. Just because on the west side of the canal, there is an easement. And if you look at the easement to the north, the easement, there is no easement. The properties for the homeowners actually go to Water's Edge, as well as down towards Harvest Lane. And so we would like to see that west side easement that the canal company has right now to be it maintained either by landowners or by the canal company. And so that's what we've made that suggestion with them. So anyway, but I'm for it. I don't see a problem. I like the variety in the sizes of the lots, and I've probably gone over my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak to this item? I see no one online. Okay.
Probably failed to mention that we did get a unanimous recommendation of approval for the planning commission. I hope
Yeah. We get it from the planning commission. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. I'll bring this back to the council for any discussion or a motion. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you. Just a brief discussion. I don't mind this. An R110 to an R18 is, you're squeezing in like 3 more houses than you'd otherwise get, 2 more houses on this size of a parcel. Not a big deal to me. I'm fine with that. I do love the sales job we always get from developers. This is the only way we can make this work. Well, okay. I bet if we had some creative pens and pencils, we could probably make it work with an R110 too. But with 2 more houses, I don't think we're negatively impacting the existing neighborhood. I don't think we're making any substantive changes that will affect anybody's daily life on the end of the day. So I'll be in favor.
Well, I'm in favor too. And if no one else has anything, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
I want to just ask a question because I have to have Zoom on my device, so I can't look it up. But we got a letter from the canal from Salt Lake County. Larry, could you address that for the flood control?
So that'll be more of a development issue with Mr. Guyman than an entitlement issue. Whatever the county's flood control, that is a flood control conveyance out there in canal. There is stormwater that goes into that. Whatever, they will not be able to alter South Jordan Canal. And in fact, they will have to get a flood control permit from Salt Lake County. I believe that's the reason their engineers already applied to the county to get that permit. So they will not be able to alter that canal in any way, shape, or form when the development comes through. So that's the reason you got the letter. I think that the county was probably just making the council or the legislative body aware that someone has applied to do development near a flood control or a canal. So,
in case you didn't let us know. Okay.
Can I just ask a follow-up question? So with that flood control permit, it's not going to force any changes to the concept plan, lot size?
No.
They move it away from the canal farther?
No, with the setbacks that are in the house, the easement will be maintained regardless. Those canals are, by the way, protected by the Constitution, not law, by the Constitution of Utah. So, they'll have to work around that easement for the canal when the lot layout comes. But like I said, it's more of a development issue than an entitlement issue. So,
okay, I'm ready for a motion.
All right.
Councilmember Bloom.
Thank you. I move the city council approve ordinance number 22-08 regarding rezone for the Hidden Cove subdivision at 7136 South, 2200 West for approximately 5.5 acres from R1 10D, single family residential, 10,000 square foot lot minimum zone to R1 8C, which is single family residential, 8,000 square foot lot minimum zone.
I'll second.
I have a first from Councilmember Bloom and a second from Councilmember Worthen. Roll call vote, please.
I'm sorry. Hold on just one more moment. I'm sorry. I don't have my right open. I apologize. Okay. Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom,
Yes.
and Chair Whitelock.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us. I just need to pause for just a second and mention that Councilmember McConaughey had to leave. I waited till after you were done in case you want to leave because you've been here a long time. He had to leave for a family issue with his children, but he is continuing to join us via audio. So hopefully everything goes okay for his family. The next item on our agenda is consider ordinance number 2211, approving engineering standard additions regarding narrow trench excavation. It looks like Nate Nelson.
I promised not to call Larry up if he didn't call me up, so that was our deal. Good evening. Tonight we're just asking you to adopt a couple of new standard details as part of our engineering standards. This is to accommodate the style of installation that will be done by Google Fiber when they come in and start putting fiber optic cables within the city. The reason it calls for a special detail is because it as we'll get there. Okay, sorry, that's okay. So these details are just tailored for small trenches that are 1 to 2 inches wide in the city's roadways. Typical installations for utilities and other service providers are outside of the city's right-of-way. So these details are very similar to those that have been adopted by other cities such as Sandy, South Jordan, Taylorsville. And it just it gives us the ability to, when we approve permits, to ensure that they're placed properly and that our inspectors have the proper standards to inspect against. We can go ahead and advance the slides. Unless you have any questions about those, I'll just show a couple of images of how they're installed. Go ahead and go next, Alan. This is some of the installs that were going on in Sandy when we took a field trip there. They just bring a machine along with a blade, and it's just a cut blade. It makes a clean cut, and then it pulls out the material and pumps it into a truck. Leaves a little trench about 2 inches deep by 8 to 12 inches. Next. Leaves you with very thin trenches, and next they come along and put in plastic conduits. Next, Alan. That's what the conduits look like. They're just small, thin conduits, and they lay those down in the trench, and then they backfill it with a lean concrete. Next, Alan. Here's an image that shows one that's been installed right up against the gutter. You can barely see it. It's just a light gray color there, and they backfill the trench with lean concrete up flush to the roadway surface, and then the final image. And then this is one where they're out into the road a couple of feet. once they've backfilled it and then covered it with a mastic or a crack seal. So unless there's any questions, that's all I have to.
I actually do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So if there's sinkage, are we responsible? Are they responsible? I understand it's a narrow,
Yeah.
but still, if that's right in front of your house, that could be a problem.
If there's sinkage, we would contact Google, their contractors. They will be posting a bond. They'll be permitted. They'll be bonded. If anything fails within the first year or so, then we'll call them and they'll be back. Anything beyond that, their assurance is that they'll maintain them and that they'll come back and make any repairs that are required.
And in the parking strip, it appeared that maybe they were going through the parking strip to do something. There was something there construction wise. So how will that be handled in our city when they go through a parking strip?
Well, every other house, they'll basically build a little junction box, and they'll take we call it a torpedo. It's a little device that torpedoes underneath the curb and gutter, and then they dig a hole in that. That's where they'll have a little kind of a J box, junction box, and that's from there they branch it into the individual homes. I'm not sure I understand.
So what's
the question,
their responsibility? I just got my sister's parking strip totally done in Taylorsville, and they came through, and so this summer I get to go do it again. So I want to know for our residents what their responsibility is.
Their responsibility is to return it to the way they found it.
Okay.
If there's complaints, they'll be able to contact our inspector, and our inspector will take that up with Google.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I will open this public hearing to anyone here that would like to speak or online to this motion. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for a motion.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 22-11, approving the engineering standards additions regarding narrow trench excavation, because I want Google Fiber fast.
I'll second that comment.
We have a motion by Councilmember Green, a second by Councilmember Worthen. Is there any discussion of the motion? I also want it to be quick. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
Chair Whitelock,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Green.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0.
Next up is a public hearing to consider ordinance number 2212, amending the consolidated fee schedule. Ms. Steck.
This is engineering related as well, but ordinance 2212 amends your consolidated fee schedule to include fees for what we call micro or narrow trenching in the road system. It would be used for high fiber or high speed fiber to be inserted in the roadway on the edge of the road, specifically related to the Google contract that will be coming. And then it is also the engineering fees that are associated with that work as well. So you should see just 2 fees being amended. That's it. Thanks.
Wonderful. Are there any questions for Ms. Steck? Thank you. I will now open the public hearing to the public. If anyone wishes to speak to this motion, please come forward or make yourself known by raising your hand online or pushing *9. Seeing no one, I close this public hearing and bring it back to the council for a vote. A motion first.
I move to approve ordinance 22-12.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilmember Jacob, a second from Councilmember Green. Roll call vote, please, Cindy.
Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom,
Yes.
Chair Whitelock,
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0.
We will now consider ordinance 2217, amending the annual budget for fiscal year 2022. And we also have a substitute one. Denise Steck.
Are the slides on here? Okay. So we've gone over the budget amendment during your work session. We'll go over it quickly for the benefit of the public or anyone that's listening. The general fund, there is limited activity. We'd be receiving the ARPA grant into the general fund at $10 million. Allocating some expense that was previously allocated out to the grants fund back into the general fund for personnel that are currently existing. This is not adding new personnel. This is allocating their wages back into the general fund. Operations, the same thing. Operations that were allocated out to the grants fund is now being brought back into the general fund and paid for with some of those funds that are being receipted. And then a transfer to the CIP fund of reserves or revenues at an amount of $9.396 million. Next slide. Just as a note, in the general fund, that does maintain your general fund balance at about 15 million, which is your target, to just kind of keep those reserves at. The capital projects fund will be receiving the funds from the general fund and then loaning, doing an interfund loan to the water fund of $3.8 million and an interfund loan to the sewer fund in the amount of $5.596 million. These loans are specific to infrastructure that's been approved in those funds and will be the financing mechanism for them. You will also be presented with a resolution a little later approving the terms of that loan, but this budget amendment will, and this slide particularly, will address the requirement for a public hearing on any interfund loans between two funds. In addition, it is removing the construction budget for the Community Arts Center for this fiscal year. The general CIP fund has about $30.8 million as a proposed ending fund balance. The majority of that money is restricted money. It is not typically general fund money. So we need to be clear about that because people see that big number and think, oh, why are you holding that much money? The majority of it's impact fees and state restricted money. The next slide. Our grants fund is all of the activity related to the ARPA grant that we just spoke about is being removed from this fund and transferred to the appropriate funds. Next. The water fund, we are receiving the funds that we've just spoken about and then budgeting for the Zone 6 water storage tank in the water fund. It was previously budgeted for in the grants fund at $7.5 million. Next. And we are budgeting it in their entirety for the sewer line expansion project. Most of that money will not be spent this fiscal year as it's still in design, but it will be spent and carried over into the next fiscal year. And receiving the funds from the other funds that we just talked about, the ARPA grant, a state ARPA grant of $2 million to match our funds, and then the loan from the CIP fund. This will also request $708,000 from reserves in the sewer fund to assist in funding that project in its entirety. The sewer fund still has $6 million of funding balance at the end, so it's still in good enough shape. It's not great, but it's not unhealthy either. That's it for our budget amendment for this evening. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions?
I can do it quickly if you'd like. I'm starting to feel like an auctioneer.
Yes, thank you. So with the arts fund, $3 million going back into a general fund, is that still in a restricted use fund?
Yes, it is not a restricted use in the pure term of restricted, which would require a legal restriction on that money, and there's no legal restriction. It is what we would call designated funds, which means the council has requested that I keep them segregated separately from the general CIP funds, and they will remain that way until you instruct me otherwise. They're reported separately in our financial statement as well.
Thank you. And then for you, Mr. Lee or Mayor Burton, so why, earlier you mentioned that it's anticipated that no action will be taken between now and the next fiscal year regarding the arts facility, yet it was funded a year ago. Why has there not been any action? And certainly if this is moved into next fiscal year, there won't be any action.
I'm going to let Mr. Lee answer that for us.
Sorry, it was not originally in the current fiscal year budget. It was added to the current fiscal year budget in the January budget amendment.
Wasn't July.
They were designated funds, but they were not appropriated funds in the current budget until we made the budget amendment in January. That was the end of January, so those funds were available to starting in February. That was the same time we were getting ready to bid out the City Hall remodel. As a city, we didn't want to put out the City Hall remodel and the Community Arts Center requesting bids both at the same time and essentially bid against ourselves and our own projects because they were very similar project amounts. And so we working with our construction project management team, made the strategic decision, bid out the remodel, then immediately bid out the City Hall or the Community Arts Center right after. So you're doing one, then the other, not at the same time. When we got the City Hall remodel bids back, that's when I contacted each of you about those City Hall remodel bid prices.
Great, thank you. And so would you say that was a intentional strategy to not concurrently have bids out for both facilities, or was it a lack of staff time to be able to adequately pursue both projects?
Well, certainly it strains our staff time, our staffing availability to pursue both projects. It was strategic to not put both of them out at the same moment, but certainly our staffing levels managing both projects are, something we're very cognizant of.
Okay, thank you, because I'm in favor of smaller government, but efficient government. Would it help me understand, is it plausible to say that if we had more staff, let's say if we had another $100,000 FTE and we were able to bid this out and get working on it sooner, that it potentially could have saved millions of dollars on the back end because of rising costs of materials and labor?
Sure. I mean, construction inflation at the moment is unprecedented. So, of course, had we bid this out 6 months ago or a year ago, the price would have been dramatically lower, yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So just for all of us, certainly myself included, when the next budget cycle comes, perhaps we could keep that in mind, that in effort to save some money, it actually costs more money on the back end the more we wait. Thank you.
Any other clarifying questions before we open it to the public? Okay, I will now open this up for public comment if there is anyone here that wishes to speak or anyone online. Seeing no one, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the council for a motion.
I'm going to move to approve substitute 1 to ordinance number 2217.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve substitute 1 by Councilmember Green and a second by Councilmember Bloom. Roll call vote, please.
May we have discussion to the motion?
Oh, sure. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So I just want to clarify that groundbreaking is still scheduled to occur during calendar year 2022, not necessarily fiscal year 2022.
That will depend on what we do with our budget next year, really.
So then what is the pro and con of moving this? Understandably, if we don't use the money in this budget cycle, it automatically rolls over to next budget cycle. So why do we need to have?
This request came from the mayor.
Because
could you help clarify that, please, Mayor? If it's going to roll over anyway, why have this be an amendment procedure?
Only way I'm sorry, Mayor, I apologize. The only way a budget will roll forward is if it's committed in contract. Not just that it's budgeted, but that it's committed by contract. So it would still, even if we didn't do anything during the next couple of months, that $3 million would roll to fund balance, and the council would have to reallocate it or reappropriate it in the next budget. This wouldn't be one that we would roll. The only way that it would remain to roll forward as a project with would be that we'd committed to a contract of some sort.
Which we haven't committed to a contract of some sort. So in this amendment, then we're still having this year's allocation funding that was dedicated toward the arts facility, not necessarily be dedicated there. Yet you mentioned it's not necessarily a restricted fund.
It would be restricted and held as a designated fund balance. So you have $5.9 million right now, with the commitment of Salt Lake County for an additional $2 million if we do the project. That $5.9 million will stay as designated for the Community Arts Center and stay in reserves until such time as the council would approve a project and the funding for the project to go forward.
Can I have one clarifying comment on top of that? So you asked about a groundbreaking later this calendar year. Like, does it automatically go into next fiscal year? That's up to the council in the final adopted budget. It has to be appropriated in the final adopted budget for next fiscal year if you wanted to do a groundbreaking in the latter half of this calendar year. Otherwise, it does, as Denise mentioned, it stays in that designated but fund reserves.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, vote please, Cindy.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
Chair Whitelock,
Yes.
Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom,
Yes.
and Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, council.
All right, now we're moving on to our business items. First up will be the resolution 2211. Ms. Tanji, do you have anything for us? Okay. All right. We're considering adopting the new city council districts for the city of West Jordan. Is there anyone that wants to make a motion or a comment? Councilmember Worthen.
I move to approve ordinance number 22-17, amending the annual budget for, no, that's not the right thing. That's the wrong thing in front of me, man. 22-11, adopting the new city council district for the city of West Jordan. Thank you.
And I will second that.
Is there any discussion to the motion? Roll call vote, please, Cindy.
Chair Whitelock,
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom.
She stepped out momentarily.
Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry. Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next is resolution 22004, providing advice and consent for the mayor's appointment of Tim Peters to serve on the Trans-Jordan Landfill Board. Is your light on for a reason? No. Mr. Anderson, did you have something?
Well, I was just going to, I think the mayor could probably speak to what he would, what this item is.
Dave Newton's been serving on the Trans-Jordan board, and actually he's vice chair of that board, and he wants to slow himself down a little bit and move from vice chair and as a board member to be the alternate. Tim Peters has been serving as alternate for several years and has been doing a wonderful job, and he is willing to accept the position as the board member with Trans-Jordan. You have seen his credentials and his background, and you know him. Hopefully you reviewed that. We've sent it to the council on the committee on committees, and I'd like to hear their recommendation. I already know it. That's why I want to hear it. And he is not here today because he is on vacation. So without him being here in his stead, I would hope that I would be happy to reply back to him how this goes.
Councilmember Pack, what did your committee have to? They did review it, right?
Yes, thank you, Chair Whitelock, along with Councilmember Blue and Councilmember Jacob. There were a lot of subtle nuances here. We went back and forth with Mayor Burton relative to ideas such as appointing an employee to serve on a board. And what if that employee resides out of West Jordan City? And then what if a resignation happens and then some other city could have 2 votes and we're not representative? But so we looked at the code, and Mayor Burton still retains the authority to be able to appoint someone else, even if it is midterm, if some circumstances happen that wouldn't be in our best interest to represent the city. And so certainly not saying anything disparaging against Tim Peters. We were just fleshing out scenarios that could potentially be affecting this appointment. And so we unanimously approve the idea of appointing Tim Peters to serve on the Transjordan City and Landfill Board. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. If no one has anything else, I'd look for a motion. Anyone?
I'll move to approve resolution number 22-004.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please, Cindy.
Councilmember Bloom. Yes. Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Chair Whitelock.
Yes.
Vice Chair Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
That motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is resolution 22-006, authorizing $3,800,000 interfund loan from the Capital Improvement Projects Fund to the Water Fund for the purposes of constructing Zone 6 water storage reservoir. Is there any discussion?
I'm going to move that we approve resolution number 22-006, authorizing the interfund loan transfer.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Green, a second by Councilmember Worthen. Is there discussion to this motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Whitelock.
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Vice Chair Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
And Councilmember Bloom.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 6-0.
Resolution number 22-007, authorizing $5,596,998 interfund loan from the Capital Improvement Projects Fund to the Sewer Fund for the purpose of upsizing a sewer line to provide infrastructure support for development.
I move to approve resolution number 22-007, authorizing that interfund loan transfer.
I second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Green, a second by Councilmember Worthen. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Councilmember Worthen.
Yes.
Vice Chair Green.
Yes.
Chair Whitelock.
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom.
Yep.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0.
Next item is consent item to approve minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from March 23rd, 2022.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Now we are to our remarks. Council office report. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. I just wanted to update the council. I've been communicating with the council rule subcommittee about some pending changes that we're going to make to the council rules document in order to accommodate the changes that PrimeGov will be giving. So I've asked Cassidy to work on those, and I've sent those to, I can't remember everybody on your committee, Councilmember Jacob, but
Myself and Councilmember Bloom.
yes. So we are working on that. And speaking of PrimeGov, you will find some new things that we're working on. So when you looked at the packet and work session for the self-funded insurance, you saw that there was a council staff report. And we're going to start preparing those as we move into Prime Gov as these packets come in. Not on every particular item, but the ones that we think the council could use additional information on. Also, with Prime Gov, for the convenience of the public and ease of access for the council, we will be separating the agenda. So the work session you will find as a different agenda, and you can search work sessions separately than you can city council meeting. The subcommittees will also be in Prime Gov. The Public Planning Commission, so Board of Adjustments, Design Review, Planning Commission, they will also be in Prime Gov. One of the nice things that we were able to do when we moved to the Prime Gov system is it will automatically store within Laserfish, which eliminates that step that several staff members do. And as part of the agreement, we did request in the RFP that not install, but they save the documents that we have done since the change in form of government. So Prime Gov will be interfaced with Laserfish going back to January of 2020 for the convenience of the council, convenience of the public to go back and be able to look at prior documents. At this point, we are on time with the majority of the project. The Laserfish integration, we're tweaking a couple things with the login credentials. With IT, there will probably be training, and I will work with the council on whether you want to do the training in a setting with all of you, public setting with all of you, or if we just pair you up in a couple, two at a time type of thing, and help you see how that works, how to use the system and be able to read your packets, make notes that you can ask, retrieve prior packets, current packets, those type of things. So I'm hoping for that training to occur probably late May, early June. We're still anticipating to go live in September, but it could be earlier as long as we stay on time. And I'll keep you apprised of that. So those are really the only things I have, just the changes to council rules primarily as it works through Prime Gov, and then some of the things that you'll see with Prime Gov as that gets implemented. And that is our report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. City Council reports, remarks. Anyone? Councilmember Green, then Bloom, then Jacob.
Just a couple of things. Yesterday, I had the opportunity of visiting Harriman City Hall and be part of the Association of Municipal Councils. We had a extensive presentation on commercial real estate and commercial real estate development, including presentation from a major real estate broker here in town and Salt Lake County. I stayed late after the meeting and corralled the major real estate broker because I just wanted his opinion. And you should all be pleased to know that when I asked him if West Jordan had a good reputation among the commercial brokers, he said, "You guys have a good reputation." So we want to continue to maintain that. But that was it. I do want to, in a quick comment, respond about Salt Lake Valley Regional Airport number 2. And just point out that 14 CFR, I have the number here actually. Let me make sure that I'm not lying. 14 CFR 120.205 gives the FAA the sole ability to regulate aircraft in airspace. We cannot control aircraft due to the federal government preemption. And honestly, I would never want to restrict. There's probably about 24 aircraft out there that I will never, and I will say this for the record, I will never want them grounded ever. That's the sound of freedom, and that's what they do. And those guys put their lives on the line every day to practice, to train, and defend us. And they're some of the most skilled pilots in the Army, and I will stand up and defend them to fly any day of the week, and twice on Sunday, because they do. And that's all I have to say.
You said she goes first.
I quickly want to publicly, I know she's not here, but Lindsay, her last day being the Easter egg hunt. She's a big reason why I'm involved with West Jordan City. She is a fantastic employee. I want to publicly state that. And she's a fantastic person, and she's going to be very much missed in our city. And I am grateful for her hard work, for her long hours, and for everything she has done for our city. I also want to do a quick mention that Council Member Green, myself, Mayor, and Corbin did go down to St. George for Chief Walentine's award. And what an amazing human being we have in this city, who is not only well respected within the city, but with every other police officer in our entire state and beyond. And we have such an amazing person in our city leading our police force. And I'm very grateful we had a chance to go down there and honor him. And that's it for tonight for me.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a brief comment on the House Bill 411 discussion, or 441, whichever it was. It's fours, and there are fours and ones and stuff, and H's and B's. We just ran out of time during the work session, so I just wanted to just give a quick thought. I didn't think that it would end where we started, which is where it ended. It was where we started, which is where it ended last time we considered. And that was, we have to pony up a whole bunch of money just to find out sometime in the future how much money we might have to pony up. I thought there might have been more progress up until now, which is why I was in favor of putting it on the agenda and talking about it. I would not be surprised to see legislation in the future that tweaks this program to allow cities to opt in at future points. And when those come up, we can look at those and see what options we have. Again, like I think we all stated, the goal of the program is a good goal, but the mechanism that they put in place to kind of get there is clunky, and it's not fair to cities and yada yada. So I wouldn't be surprised to see legislation come down the pike. I won't be running it, but see legislation coming down the pike that will see tweaks to this program to allow, to make it work. Because right as it sits, I mean, it's the right idea. It's just the wrong way to make it work. So just wanted to put in my 2 cents on that. And I echo Councilmember Green's sentiments about the airport. It's been there a lot longer than any homes around it have been. And if you don't know you're moving in next to an airport, you might want to do your homework. And that's all I'll say about that.
How do you miss it?
I've been publicly shamed.
Councilmember Pack, and then Councilmember Worthen.
Great. Thank you, Chair. I was at Constitution Park and noticed on the reservation for the pavilion, it was a really nice note, obviously put there by one of our wonderful Parks Department personnel that had the reservation for a certain family. And then just a nice handwritten note under it saying, "Hope you enjoy the day," a big smiley face on it. I just thought it was very professional and personable, and it seems to mirror so many other interactions that I've had with our great city employees, and grateful for all their work and service as a resident here of our community and on behalf of others. And also I've heard more great comments on the wonderful HR form that all city employees received relative to their total compensation, not just their wage, but also all of the benefits. And it's been interesting to hear how people did not know that the compensation package was actually that high, since people are just thinking about their wage. So I'm not sure if everybody's received that or if it all went out at the same time, but I was assuming it was. So Thank you. I think more communication beats less communication. And then just relative to council comments on the remodel, as was requested, to perhaps offer those during council comments. I would just want everyone to understand that the money that we're allocating toward the remodel of City Hall, it's not so that City Council or Planning Commission have lavish offices and hot tubs. It's for public use, for the citizenry, and also for the government. And it's for safety, it's for efficiency. It's ultimately to save money in the long run so that we don't have patchwork fixes and deferred maintenance issues. So that's the whole idea, is to be prudent and to offer an opportunity for people to have a place to meet and to showcase the city in a manner that postures us professionally yet frugally, so that we can be able to conduct the business of the city and allow citizens to have places to be able to go to do what they need to do. Thank you, Chair.
Hello. I'll be quick because Corbin needs to go home. Alan, you got my picture? So budget committee, we will start meeting once a week. What, Denise? Denise? Hey, Denise! Hey! We need to get our meeting. We need to get our meetings on the books for the budget committee. So we'll have some more reports as that it's coming forward. Alan, you're killing me here. So if y'all didn't know, Animal Control Officer Week was this week, and I mean, this about freaking killed me when I saw this picture, because I knew we had some odd ducks in our neighborhood or in our city, because I go to the animal shelter and we had a one-eyed turkey at one point. I do remember that, but this I was not aware of. Although I think I will adopt it if it's still there, because that's kind of cool. Anyway, I just want. Well, give me an ordinance. Anyway, I just want to give a shout out to these guys. They're awesome. I mean, if you guys don't go up and visit our shelter and volunteer once in a while, I highly recommend it. It's nice to go. You are in danger of taking something home. Keep that in mind, because there's always something cute up there. But I just want to give my shout out to these guys, and maybe send him an email this week and thank him for all the hard work that they do, because they really do. He looks like he's having fun, but I don't know how much fun that really was. Right?
Did you have something? Okay. Okay. I just wanted to say that I had the honor of representing our city at the Chamber West Gala, and I got to sit with some of our employees and get to know some of them better. And it was a great night, and they put on always a fun night to get together with other elected officials from our side of the valley and see what's going on. And it's also a great opportunity to interface with our legislators. So that was a nice night. So thanks for letting me represent our city. Next, we have new business. And there you have it. Unfinished business is, do you have a slide for that? Yep, there you go. There's our unfinished business.
Alan, isn't crossing guards coming? I thought we put that on the agenda coming up.
It is.
Okay.
It is. And then we have the last item is council chair housekeeping items, and the council chair neglected to write her notes. And it's my bedtime and I can't remember what I had. So Alan, is there anything I'm supposed to be asking right now?
I was going to say, if we want to volunteer at the Easter egg hunt, we're supposed to be there at 8:30 on Saturday morning.
Well, actually, if you want to volunteer to help, you need to be there at 7. If you want to be there just to greet people, be there at 8:30.
That's correct.
Anything else?
Nope, just the Easter egg on Saturday.
Okay. We have come to the end. I will ask for one final motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. Turn off your mic.
Actually, we've got the mic. We no longer have to do that. We're good.
Thank you.